Hey everyone, and welcome to F4 Obsessed, a deep dive, a weekly show where we discuss F4 Thailand from a symbolic and meta perspective. I'm Ty, your host, and my co-host is Marie Claire, who I call MC. Say hi, MC.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this show that has taken over our lives.
Yeah. There's a reason why it's called F4 Obsessed.
We thought it would just be a cute name, not a manifesto.
Yeah. It's definitely a lot. It's a lot. This episode was like insane. Before we get too far into it though, we're gonna do our weekly stuff, starting with our comments review. So do you want to start on the top left?
With Solo Pang, I just saw Talay C first name on Twitter and Mahasamat, which in Thai means ocean. I can't wait to see episode 11 because so far we've seen the sea, but not the ocean yet.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure. I kind of picked this up before today's episode, but we did see that there's that stuff going on where he uses Phupa's information to get into the school and all of that. So maybe this should have been more of a clue, but I'm not sure. So yeah, that was interesting. And then Glowcar, who provided us a language curiosity last week, came back with another comment this week. And again, these are all comments for the last episode, so for the time machine. But Glowcar said, another language curiosity, indulge me. The word machine in the title derives from the Latin machina,
yeah.
Which means machine, but also scheme or trick, thence the word machination in English. In this episode, both Goya and Tom fall victim to both Hale's machinations and also Lita's harmless tricks to win Tom's heart. I know this is probably accidental. It's probably accidental, but it is still cool how the title unwillingly hints at the deceit and confusion in the episode.
Absolutely.
I
love it. And there is truth to our formation of language, right? Like it comes from these very formal sources unless those sources change with time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the next one I think is Sana. Loved the different angles of the time machine in this episode. For me, I reflected on the roller coaster of emotion I had with Ren. Episode 1, oh no, second lead syndrome, Ren's return. No, go back. Not now, go back. Tom needs to win Goya. And episode 10, yes, sir. Sir Lancelot, go save your queen. Ugh, my heart.
That pretty much summarizes, I think, a lot of people's responses to Ren so far.
Yeah. And this is a massive semi-spoiler for our discussion on In the Wind.
Yeah, it is. That's another reason why I chose it, because I was like, we talked about this. So
you will get later on this week.
Yes, that's going to come out on Wednesday, our deep dive into the In the Wind video. And we're going to talk more about the Lancelot parallels with Ren. And yeah, this is just a good summation of that.
Yes.
So Maddie says, Tom saves Goya when there is fire involved. Red. Ren saves Goya when there's water involved. Blue. Also in episode 1, when Ren saves Goya with the sprinkler putting out the fire Tom started, the red card. And in the fight scene, when Tom was very angry, fire, and Ren extinguished it by bringing him to fight in the water at the stadium. Maybe it shows that Ren and Tom go well together and they rely on each other so things don't go too far. Ren can put out Tom's fire.
I love this.
Yeah. It keeps coming up, these symbols. I mean, they've been there from the beginning. And
I still don't know if this is purposeful or just like the creators leading into just their subconscious and letting it speak for them. But it shows up throughout the show, so it's very consistent, and either way we get the benefit of it.
Yeah, I think so. I think that there's some intention on the sprinkler thing is now just in my head all the time. I'm just like, oh, that's perfect to show the relationship between Tom and Ren and the putting out the fire and all that, like, even though there was no actual fire, it was solving the problem with water. So it's just cool. Zeem Vaj 52 said, speaking of the mini symbols that are abundant throughout the episodes, I noticed that Tom always wears rings on both of his hands. It's usually a ring on the left index finger and then one on his right thumb. An example of this can be seen in the episode when Lita gives him the box of cookies. A ring on the right thumb indicates the willpower to face challenges and win them. It also symbolizes assertion and aggression in life by taking what one wants. A ring on the left index finger represents self-confidence, leadership, and ambition. It also describes one's ego, authority, and power. And then they just added, thank you for the analysis of each episode and providing further in-depth insights, which thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't know about ring symbolism. I didn't even think about that. And we clearly see rings on like his thumb and his other fingers, like she pointed out, or they pointed out. So,
and this ring symbolism as well is leaders and kings are often known to wear multiple rings as a symbol of status and authority too.
right.
So he is kingly.
Yeah.
In what he wears.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so like before we get too far into the show and like what is exactly happening in the episode, I've been really ruminating a lot on Bell Hooks and how she talks about feminist masculinity and how this entire show is framed in a feminist masculinity way because our main four heroes are called flowers. They're the flower four, right?
Yeah.
F4, they're the flower four. And what she says is feminist masculinity offers men a way to reconnect with selfhood, uncovering the essential goodness of maleness and allowing everyone, male and female, to find glory in loving manhood.
Right.
And all of this happens through a rejection of violence.
Right. Yeah, there's also stuff that connects to that with our talk about gaze a lot, you know, like GAZE, about how by using certain gaze, certain perspective in storytelling, specifically cinematic views and perspectives, you can feminize the audience.
Yeah, even if there is only masculine figures on the screen. And
exactly,
you had a really good example of that with American Psycho.
Yeah.
Previously.
American Psycho is one of the ones that does that. Virgin Suicides is another interesting look at it. But yeah, stories that use gaze, it typically can challenge the audience to feminize the characters or the audience themselves become feminized. And that's another interesting thing. It turns the gaze back on the audience and allows them to challenge the way that they're viewing the characters in the story. So
it also happens with every musical because of how I Want songs function, which is that it and musical songs in general, because it externalizes the internalized emotions.
Yeah, it tells the audience how the subject is actually feeling, which sometimes if they're being viewed as an object, it turns them into a subject. It turns them into someone the audience can relate to,
and it outwardly projects the emotions that patriarchy in general would want especially male characters to be kept on the inside. And so like I want you to keep that in mind as we explore this episode, because it takes the source material and exponentially increases the value of that source material by how it treats it in this episode.
Yeah. I think I said on Twitter, like, it feels like the creators are uprooting the themes, replanting them, and then like cultivating them to make them more meaningful. And I said it like that on purpose because
the flower metaphors.
The flower metaphors, exactly.
Yeah. No, and it's just such a joy to witness this show.
It is. Yeah, it really is. It's definitely a ride. All right. So we have a couple of lore to do this week. Marie Claire and I were like, do we do the chair scene? Do we do the necklace? Do we do the chair scene? Do we do the necklace? And like late last night, we both were just like, let's just do both because both are important and it's really fun to like pick these things. Both are incredibly iconic too. So
yeah.
If you can see the screen currently, if you're watching on YouTube, we have visuals from all of the previous versions, the anime, the 2001 Meteor Garden, the 2005 Hana Yori Dango Japanese version, 2009 Boys Over Flowers Korean version, and the 2018 Meteor Garden Chinese version. And what is your favorite chair scene?
Like just 2001.
Yes.
I just don't think that there's there's 2001 is so good because he's like he's wearing white and she like she just like runs. Also 2009 has a special hate in my heart because she loses her ability to swim due to permanent damage due to this situation. And that just feels so cruel.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It has a bad taste in my mouth because of that.
The folding chair, I feel like I've been hit by a folding chair in the past, even just by accident, and those things don't really hurt. Maybe the 2005, like it looks like, it's not that. I don't know.
Well, and it would have like again, like there's never. This is not a very violent act. I mean, it's violence, but it's not, it's not what he went through, but they upped the violence by making Jundi in 2009 have like a permanent injury from it, which is despicable if you ask me. But typically what it is, originally what it is, it's not actually that violent. It's really just, it's very symbolic of her realizing her true feelings. And you can even see this in like the anime, which is pretty much directly taken from the page of the manga. And she surprises herself. Like she's like, oh my God, I do care about this person. Like she realizes her own feelings in that moment, how much she actually does care about him. So
absolutely. And it's entirely coming from a place that she would rather get hurt than see him further hurt or killed, right? Because in some of these it is like he's on the edge of death,
right? It seems very serious. Like Domyouji in 2018 is like spitting up blood
like
at that point.
and if you know C dramas, if you're spitting up blood, you are actually hurt.
It's very serious.
It's very serious. We're at a critical point. And like when we get the scene in this episode, the intention is to kill. So that is part of it. And it has to do with, I would rather you be in the world than not. And that is and there's something else that happens in these versions, which I haven't captured because it doesn't necessarily happen in every version, but there's a dream sequence that happens after the female lead passes out. It's in the manga.
It's in the manga. It's in 2001 and it's in 2018, but I don't think it's in any other version. So, and essentially what that is, it's just like the female lead seeing the male lead either stepping to the edge of a building or into the ocean. And she's like, she thinks he's dying. Like she thinks like this is like a premonition dream where she is seeing him like going to the afterlife. So when she wakes up and then the hospital prank happens,
she believes it.
That's why she's so susceptible to it. They don't really have to do that in this version, I think, because there was just, I think that they clearly didn't have enough time to
Hunning's hesitancy to speak up actually just lended her to be like, oh no, he's really hurt, and then he's covered in a sheet. It just, her mind went directly where worst case scenario.
I think it was believable in this version, but other versions, just so you know, they did have that in there. And then the other one, the necklace,
which I always started out as Saturn.
This is a weird one.
This is a weird one because sort of especially 2005, he like talks about how they're gonna go and like live on Saturn, and Saturn is like their planet, and they're both like destined to like kind of live amongst the stars. Which, okay, so the theme is still that they are star children destined to be together. That is still the theme amongst all of this, but it wasn't until later that it actually became like a star.
Yeah. Like a shooting star, a meteor. Yeah.
And the meteor symbolism just works so much better.
It does. Yeah.
Than Saturn.
Yeah. And I know like there's some people who have been talking about the astrology of it. Like Saturn does make sense for the astrology of the story. Like, and if you guys want to talk about it in the comments, like I'd be curious because I've seen some people discuss it before. I just don't really remember at the moment. But Saturn has meaning to the story, but I definitely think that because this is an iterative story, it makes sense for it to transition to what we get today, which is a meteor cluster of stars, which I really, really like that.
Yeah, so because it is like a better representation of like the meteor garden and like this idyllic place that he sees them in.
Yeah,
like this place in between, and it works really, really well in this episode, and also it worked really, really well in 2018. I really, really think it was awesomely executed then as well.
Yeah, and if you look at the 2001 necklace, it's so funny because it's kind of Saturn, but it's also not. So it's more of a symbolic representation of like a star in the middle, and then it has rings around it, which kind of gets us away from the planet meaning, and it takes it more to a star meaning. And then but then you get like 2009, which has like a moon, which doesn't make any sense.
It's a star with a moon.
It's very odd. And I mean, I guess I could pull some meaning out of it. Like maybe he thinks he's the moon in my star. Yeah. But they didn't really discuss it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But anyways, so yeah, we definitely get a cool necklace with this version, which I'm really happy about.
I mean, 2018 had all of the amazing like behind the scenes stuff in it. You can go and read on all of that.
Yeah, that's right. Oh,
there's tons of
I was so in that when it was happening. I was so all over it. Yeah. If you ever watch that version and you like the leads, like look up the behind the scenes stuff. It's really good. Okay. So which Tom this time quadrant chart, we actually didn't have to move him because he's staying as a mature lover, which is amazing.
He's just hanging out there. This is his home now.
I hope so. If he stays there,
it's not. No, there's no way.
No. I mean, he's gonna regress, like we know, especially. But this is the part in his journey where he needs to stay in that area because there's something important for him to learn, which is my next slide. We're revisiting this week because I think I'm absolutely shocked. Both of us are pretty shocked at how clear this is being enacted now. And maybe it was clear the whole time and I just didn't see it. But last week
I don't know. I mean, I think it was like episode 2. I said, "Oh, Ty, you got to prep some heroes and heroines journey slides." And I'm like, "Oh, like, well, they'll definitely map this. This is totally going this way." And you're like, "Okay, I'll prep them just in case." And then we're like, when do we pull these out? Because it's getting weird. We've been talking about this the whole time.
We have. And it's been very clear, especially with the first threshold. We talked about that being the broken door, and the receiving the gifts was like the magic pork stuff, and like there's everything was there. It's all very explicit. It felt like, but now it's like kind of getting weird. Like the name episode. The name of the episode is called The Atonement, and the particular step that Tom is in from the last episode going into this one is called the second threshold. And there are many names for these steps. This is not template type stuff, right? This is interpretable, but typically this particular part of the journey is the second threshold. It's the part where the hero journeys into the abyss, and it goes into his lowest point where he receives atonement. And that's like really, really important for this step. And that's why I included the word in there, because I like he needed that. And the fact that they called it out in the episode is just nuts. But he does journey from the second threshold into apotheosis. And we're going to talk about that when that happens, when we get to that point in the episode.
Absolutely.
All right, let's start the episode.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Where do we start? Just with colors?
Yeah.
The colors on the board. So people who have accepted are in green, and those who have declined or aligned with Tom in his mind are in red. And so he's saying, see, Goya, I'm green and you're green, and look at all these greenies. We're all against Tom, and she's on the edge of that board as like the decision maker.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on this board. It was like, whoa.
It was joy for nerds like us.
Yeah, it was
to look through. And then we see that she is tied with a red string of fate to Tom.
Yeah. And somebody called this out before.
Subway
dates. Yeah. They called this out on Twitter before, because I guess an image was out, and I think it was an official image, and they could just see barely behind the chair the red.
The red, yeah.
So do you want to talk about that? The red string of fate?
So there's across Asia as well as the world, there's tying people together from a string perspective. So like even in Western culture, they refer to marriage as tying the knot, but more specifically in Chinese mythology and mythos, it is referred to destiny, or your true love's destiny, or the person you're going to end up being with, whether you want to or not. That's key. There's many folklore and mythology stories around how people have been tied together from childhood, hate each other, grow up, and end up getting married at some later point, even though they may be abused and used each other at younger ages. And Yu Lao, the Chinese god of marriage, is actually responsible for tying people together with this red string, meaning that no matter what, there's like a destiny.
It's connected to like the Cupid stuff, right? Because like it's a similar myth. It's like getting shot with Cupid's arrow.
Yes. And so like ties to the Eros and Psyche stuff too. Hindu wedding ceremonies have several tying factors, like where either they're tied hands or they are tied to their clothing is tied together. Thai wedding ceremonies in Sai Mokon or Han, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Apologies to our Thai friends. When they arrive, actually the bride and groom are tied together by basically their heads with garlands.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And it's usually an elder person from one of the families that ties them together, and it's like a string that ties their headpieces together. And it basically is kind of wishing that the two are like symbolically joined for the rest of their lives.
Right.
And yeah, there's tons.
Yeah.
Across the globe, this is a very, very strong symbol. But the fact that she is tied with a red string in this textual context means that she is tied inescapably to Tom, because that's his color.
Yeah. And we see that Talay is, again, we talked about this last episode, he's taking up the color red because for him that is tied to violence, and that's tied to his violent past and his red screwdriver and all of that. But that's not his color per se. But then we get the atonement title. Again, this goes into the red.
Just before that, though, we actually
Mhm.
get Goya confronting the school, trying to appeal to them from
Right.
a community perspective, which
Mm.
is what she has been, quote unquote, trying to grow, right?
Yep.
This
Yep.
sense of like protection of the community. But Talay is the Shadow King who has them under control in the same exact way that Tom used to have everybody in control. Things can't
Mm.
happen without his say. So he is sort of he has taken over the power,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And he starts to monologue, which traditionally gives us an idea of, you know, of course, the plan, right? The things you were us as the audience and the heroine in this case were not aware of, but it also gives the heroine in this a chance to correct the audience's thinking and the villains.
Mhm.
And because the flashbacks are happening, it allows us to empathize with the villain. So
Yep.
it's like we're and there is a patriarchal audience watching all of this happen, watching this dialogue happen.
Mhm.
It absolutely makes me so mad when he says, "Thank you for trusting me all this time."
Mhm.
It makes me so mad.
Uh,
But yes, we get atonement in the red writing, which we know, although it's not for now in the episode, refers to Tom.
right. Yeah, this was I screamed when I saw this pop up
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
because I mean I knew the double meaning right away because it's clear because we know this, like we've seen the symbols pile up. We know what's going on with Tom right now. We know he's on his way. We know this is going to end not so good for him. And so this is the atonement, especially being written in red, is it's all about Tom. It's so clever. It's the first title that we've gotten that's written in this way, at a slant in red. Um, just incredibly well done. And a note on the word atonement, because I just think it's the greatest, it's like the greatest word. And when we talk about things from a mythological perspective and a metaphorical perspective, it's one of my favorite things. And atonement essentially means at one
Mm-hmm.
with yourself. That is it's a level of achievement that you reach when you finally reached a sense of peace, a sense of harmony with yourself and the things that you've done. And it is a step on the path to redemption. It is not redemption in of itself. It's a step towards redemption that is essential that the individual has to take for themselves. It's not something that people give you, it's something that you choose to pursue, and it is not earned. We talk about this a lot with like
Yeah.
Star Wars stuff, like redemption and atonement are not earned. It is a personal choice, especially the
It
atoning
is a
part.
choice to
Mhm.
go in another direction, which we will
Exactly.
come back to that point.
Exactly. Yes, we will.
And yes, it
Yep.
has to be an active choice. This is all of this stuff is active, right? You have to
Yeah,
choose to be a better person. You have to choose to not be violent. You have to choose to make your community a better place.
exactly. Yep. Oh, and it all has so much meaning by the end of this. So then we get Tom racing, which it's so good. He like rips off his tie, which we knew that was going to happen, and we were so excited to see it.
Yeah, it's related to him always being chained, right?
Yes.
Chained by the patriarchy, chained by his mom, chained by the expectations of his position and society and everything like that. No, in the car, unravels his own chain and drives in the
Yes.
most sexy way possible.
Yeah, and he's in his white car with the
That's my
red.
that's my
Oh,
feminist masculine hero. Yeah.
yes, it's so good. And I love that he gets the call from Gawain on the way, which pops up on his screen.
Mhm.
And it's so great because Gawain is his right hand guy in terms of like the F4 and how it's structured. And he's also the guy who is his like wizard, is his court seer, court like wisdom kind of person. So
Mhm.
gives him the knowledge that he needs. But Tom is like immediately is like, I'm not going to do whatever you tell me to do because I know you're going to tell me not to do this.
Yeah.
And he says,
it's a trap.
It's a trap.
And like, I know.
I know. And he says, you're going to go to Goya no matter what. And he said, like, he's just like, yep. Yeah. So he gives the phone to MJ, this is so interesting to me. He gives the phone to MJ, and MJ, because he's like, okay, you talk to him. And MJ's like, okay, here's what you need to know. Like, let me give you the information that you need to go in there and do what you need to do. But like, they both know that he's going to get the crap beaten out of him.
I don't know that they know that. I don't know that they know how much he's changed.
I mean, that's a good point.
Yeah. I do
but
love
they
that
know they do know it's a trap,
Ren.
Though.
Oh yeah, they know it's a trap.
Yeah,
like,
they know it's a trap.
but they also believe in their king, of course, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love that they save Ren, and MJ and him like function as this like dynamic, man in the chair duo, where it's like, okay, here's the psychological motivations you're gonna need for this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like, oh yeah,
exactly. And the just the fact that they give him what he needs, that they're anti F4, and he's like, okay, I don't know what this is, but it's kind of, you can see it churning in his mind that this is, he knows that this was coming in a way.
Yeah. And it's like anti F4 people, the actual victims of the red card, like that's some of them, and that Tom understands the consequences that he's going to be facing for this. And
exactly,
it really represents a sense of accountability. And it takes us as the audience the whole episode to like slowly walk through all of this Hale motivation, but Tom is like, no, I come in ready to go. And it was such a good way to get the character like up to speed, because he knows what we know by the time he enters the scene.
Yeah, definitely.
Very smart, quick, amazing storytelling. We didn't need to have a side scene where he's like, and Hale is who? No, he knows his own sin.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Then we get the Phupa thing. They mentioned Phupa, like they mentioned that he's related to Phupa, they just don't know how. And then we go back to Goya and Hale is like, a senior got the red card right before you. To me, he's just an idiot, and this is where we get the flashbacks of what their relation is. Did you have anything to say about the screwdriver? You said you had some thoughts. Did you want to mention it now?
I have so many. Okay. There's something that starts out here where he calls him an idiot.
Right.
Which is traditionally how the male lead and female lead in all of the other versions refer to each other.
Yeah, like baka or whatever the Japanese word is. They constantly.
But no, it's constantly in like all the versions. They call them dummy or idiot.
Right.
And I really hated that. And they've removed that from the male lead and the female lead in this version. But they gave it to this version of Phupa and Hale. And it's really interesting. Okay, so I'm just going to call that out because you got to keep that in mind as we get closer and longer.
Right.
There are parallels to Goya and Tom, but they're not quite right. They're almost like Hale and Phupa are like shadow versions of our former Hana Yori Dango versions.
Yeah. That's what and
that's where it starts. This is where it starts.
It's
I was
right
like,
here.
What?
I know.
Okay. So let's talk about the red screwdriver. Okay. Screwdrivers are a useful tool that are used to build or to fix. And as he goes into talking about the past, a tool that, even though it's incredibly useful, can be used to build or to fix, can also be used as a weapon.
Yeah, 100%.
I.e., it's red, it's a useful tool, but it can always be turned to violence. And so this is a Tom metaphor. This is a shadow Tom.
Right.
This is really important because it is showing like a mirror, like a weird warped mirror up to us, just like the time machine did. it shows us like how one turns to violence and how violence is in our society. And it shows Tom,
Mm-hmm.
who is incredibly useful and can be used to build, create, and fix, is actually being used as a weapon in the society.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So let's go to the flashbacks. Because this whole thing is about, which is when Phupa and Talay meet, Halay's getting bullied and Halay is an orphan. He's by himself. He doesn't have anyone. And he takes up the screwdriver to commit violence against the bullies. And Phupa comes out of nowhere wearing white.
Yeah.
And he is essentially Halay's shooting star.
Yep. I wrote impact of Meteor parallel.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
and it comes up later too. Yeah.
He stops him from violence.
Yeah.
This is like Phupa is constantly stopping the cycle of violence for Halay. And he accidentally hurts Phupa.
Yeah. And Phupa before he got involved, he also like called the police because he's a smart guy. And that was an interesting thing to me that comes up later. But then he finds out that Halay finds out he did hurt him with the screwdriver, and it reminds us of the part where Goya punches the stuffed honey badger, and accidentally pokes herself on the pin that was around the honey badger
and starts to bleed. Yeah.
Right. And he's like, Poopa's like, it's fine. I'll just put a bandage on it. Like, it's not a big deal. And this is like the whole idea of like, you know, if you're in a partnership with someone, like you're going to hurt each other sometimes, especially if you're like fire and water. But if you love the other person, if you care about them, then it's okay. You know,
you try to work past the accidental hurt. Yeah,
exactly. You work past the accidents. Yeah.
There's other parallels to Goya and Tom we'll get into in like later on, but they're purposefully showing us the similarities in their relationship. Like, Halay is alone, he's abandoned, he's an orphan, and Phupa has family.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of role flipping going on in terms of how they relate to Tom and Goya, but they do relate to Tom and Goya in every way. It's just it flips the roles. So and it's interesting because then I think at one point they shake hands and they recognize that their names are kind of related because Halay means sea and Phupa means mountain. And they're like, oh, that's a coincidence. And then we find out that Phupa's dad owns a steel mill or something like that, which is funny because his name is Mountain.
A factory. Yeah, he's a factory owner. And so he has a little bit more power and connection. And this is showing how the school as this microcosm is connected to the larger adult society at large too.
Yeah. It also shows us that like Phupa is not from he's not from like the 0.01%. Like it's just his dad had money, whereas like somebody like Halay did not. So, and then they show that they grew up together. They do this very well. They kind of do this beautiful little montage of them growing up together. And
they do the quick behind the pillar showing them growing up.
Yeah,
playing, and they're always together. Yeah,
I love it so much. And then he's still narrating over all of this, doing his villain monologuing, and he says, you know, I think that he makes stupid decisions, but I, you know, respect him. I have the utmost respect for him. I respect him from the bottom of my heart. Just really shows us his love for his friend or his brother, or I still think they're lovers, but you know, that's just my headcanon.
We'll read some fic.
Yeah, I just
anyone want to write any of that? That'd be cool.
It was just it was right there. It was right there. But then we get the vision of where Phupa is now. And he's in the hospital. He's not like you know, he's not like comatose. Like he's sitting there. He's he's in rehabilitation. He's getting better.
Yeah, but it's that like, and this he goes into that his dad has had to spend money to, all his money to help cure him. And
Yeah, so that's what I was gonna say, was that like the hurt that's caused again always comes back to class as opposed to like physical harm. Even though Phupa was physically hurt, he's not at risk of dying. He's being hurt by his economic status, which the F4, that is not a consequence for the F4. That is not something they have to even think about. So again, it goes back to that same messaging of like just the divide that's between somebody like the F4 and then like Goya or Hale, and even now like Phupa. Like it's such a great divide.
He goes into talking about how he's good at like tech stuff, right? And that it led him, like his friendship with him led him to opportunities to find out what he's truly good at, which is, again, he has a talent for fixing and building and creating and helping, right? The screwdriver metaphor again.
And it kind of, it's interesting because I built my PC tower, so I know that, it's not just about hacking and like typing at a computer. Like if you want a good powerful computer, you have to build it with your hands. So I thought that was a nice little detail that he touches the tower in that way, because if he does that, like you become kind of attached to your electronics in that way. And he does say the line, "It might be fate that everything links to it," meaning it being like computers and technology. Because he's thinking in his mind that this is the way that I can, have power. Like this is the only way I can have power. So it
is also like the thing that he is powerful for, whereas Tom, it's like his right to rule and his money.
Exactly.
That's the parallel, is that like these things are their individual power, whereas Phupa, the thing that he has is his love and his compassion for others, which is similar to Goya.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so then we go to basically we get the whole thing about Hale fixing
having a skill.
Having a skill and like showing that skill and bragging in front of people, so much so that he exposes that Phupa installed prawns on his dad's computer. I don't want to say the actual word. But yeah, so then that comes up, and then the goons see it, and they are like instantly intrigued by the skill that he has, and threaten him to rip off the father for them. And Hale is really smart, obviously, so he contacts Phupa about it. Phupa runs in seemingly by himself to save Hale, and it's really freaking adorable. And he's like, "You came alone?" He's like, "Actually, I didn't come alone," because just like when they were kids, he had called the police ahead of time, which is so cute.
He's so good.
Yep.
And
and this is where we get the ultimate parallel.
The sacrificial moments by Hale to take the knife literally in the back.
Yep. And that's our foreshadowing for what happens later. And then Phupa is like, "Oh no, I gotta seal the wound," and he gets the duct tape, which I thought this was so clever because it is actually a way to stop bleeding. They say like if you like common objects like credit cards, right? Because it's like flat and like plastic, you can like seal a wound with a credit card, but duct tape,
plastic wrap can also work.
Plastic wrap, yep. Duct tape, bingo, but it just hurts when you take it off, which is, if we want to get really weird and symbolic with it, is literally like love hurts and, caring for someone hurts and all of that kind of stuff. But that was just where my mind went. But then
they'll be boyfriends later.
Yeah, I just come on, guys, come on. But then
I don't know. Phupa might be into boobs.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know what the stuff looked like on the computer. So
they fuzzed out the prawn.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We have no idea what he was looking at. But then they go to the hospital and the dad's like, you saved my son, basically. I'm gonna pay for your tuition to go to Coker High School.
I'm gonna send you to court.
Yeah.
I'm going to send you to court because when you go to court, you're introduced to all of these up and coming powerful people and you're going to have a better life. You're going to put these skills and be able to utilize them and hone them in such a way that it will lead to something.
Yeah. Yeah. He's trying to actually give him a better life. And Phupa can see that he's not totally sold on it yet because and you can see that is kind of boiling underneath the surface of, I don't necessarily want that. So Phupa's like, no, but you have to be there because then you'll be with me.
And I often find myself in a dangerous situation and I am reminded once again of Goya and Tom.
Yes, that's why. Yep, that's why. Yep. He says, I know I'm impulsive. I know I get myself into dangerous situations. But like, having a smart guy like you by my side gives me comfort. And then he calls him like his talisman or something like that.
Yeah. And then we'll make a protective talisman.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Oh, it's so sweet. It's so sweet. And then so then they get the tape on the phone.
Can we talk about that?
Of course. Yeah.
It's literally the tape that was pulled off of his wound. And so it has blood on it. They are blood brothers in a way.
They are blood brothers. I like that.
In so many ways, this is also a court favor. A courtly love favor.
Yeah.
Because he carries around in his pockets. And it has his name on it. This is the equivalent of a lady's handkerchief.
That's what I was fixing to say. Yeah, it's like the handkerchief. Oh my God.
You and I are on the same page.
That is so funny. That is so funny. Like, yep, that's definitely like when they carry it around. And
it has his blood and his name. And he carries it on his phone. And then when we just need to flash back to episode 1 when Phupa is very upset about his phone being...
No. It's his phone cover.
It's his phone cover and he has to go and pick it up because that was what was important.
Exactly. Yeah. He picks it up.
Phone. It was just his phone cover.
It was his phone cover. Yeah. That it happened in the first episode. We saw it, like we had a glimpse of it, but it wasn't the side that you could see that it was tape with Talay written on it. It was the other side. So you could see something was on it, but we didn't know what it was. But yeah, this all
adds new meaning to that episode now.
Yeah, it does.
And it's iterative storytelling that it something that we learn later on allows us to reflect back and give new meaning to an earlier part of the story.
Exactly. Yeah. I love that. It made me happy because I'm like, oh, I get to go back and rewatch it. And then that's going to be there
on the edge of passing out. And he needs to hold the phone because that is his talisman and his connection to Hale. Oh my God. And I'm not supposed to ship these two.
Exactly. And it's very tragic here because the reason why he passes out in the water is because he's trying to get to that talisman. And that's why he goes face down in the water. And I just want to like bring it back to like the fact that the F4 literally told the mean girls, make sure that he gets out of here alive. They literally said that about Phupa in the first episode. And they told the court, make sure that he gets out of here alive. And they left him there by himself.
Yeah.
Cursed court needs healing. They're terrible. So
terrible child ruler, high chair tyrant.
Yeah.
Yes.
So then we get kind of consequences of all of this, which is that the medical bills stack up. The dad has to close his factory. And we go back to Hale talking about how we know this is all the F4's fault. So then he says, he basically explains how he got into the school. And he's not actually a student. He used Phupa's credentials and information to join the school, to apply to the school and get enrolled.
And basically replaced him.
Yeah, essentially.
And he's even wearing the glasses, so he's kind of like a vengeful ghost in some ways.
Yeah, somebody called out that on Twitter recently. They're like, wait a minute, did Hale just like replace Phupa? Like, is that are those his glasses? Is he actually like pretending to be him in a way? And I was like, no, I don't think so, because that's not actually the glasses.
Yeah,
but in a metaphorical way, in like a thematic way, and also just kind of like how the story is working. Yeah, that's essentially what happened. He just changed. That's why they have the same last name, because he just changed that one little thing and then took his place. So then he is disappointed. I love this part because Hale is like mad that
the kingdom is like shut down. Shut down.
Yeah, he's like, no one's being issued the red card anymore, and like it's not happening.
Nothing happened.
Yep. He's like, how am I supposed to get proof if they're not doing this anymore? So, but then he sees the graffiti, which we've seen that kind of thing before in the show, that says like, I hate the F4. And he's like, okay, I just gotta find the right people to recruit into my anti F4 group. And then it'll be fine. So, which I kind of feel like there's a tiny little disconnect here in the narrative, because they never explain the Phupa, like why he was trying to expose F4, and they could have linked that to Hale helping him. Like it's kind of insinuated at this point, but Phupa had videos and they were deleted from his hard drive, or they were deleted permanently from where he had them stashed, and Hale could have helped him either keep them from being deleted or something like that. I kind of wish they would have showed that. It's just,
I have a question. So the actor Fluke, who's in the background, who's like the main bully who was beating up on Hana,
right?
Was he a recipient of the F4 card, the red card previously?
No, he was just beaten up by Tom.
No, in the show, but I think he was. I think he started to become a bully. Like this is my like headcanon, but I think that all of these people, although some of them ended up becoming bullies, started to be more bully like because of the violence that was enacted on them.
I think that's I thought that was like insinuated personally. Okay. I thought that like all of them were victims of the card, but I think the big thing is that in the way that the court goes is that anyone that was bullied gets to like bully, anyone that had been bullied gets to be a bully, and that's just the cycle of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the cycle of violence, but I don't know that that's necessarily what it's just like the rule itself is that Tom just basically says it all goes,
right
when I say yes, right, I give you permission.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not saying there's like I'm not saying that's how he doles out the red cards.
Yeah.
I'm just saying like that's the pattern, like you said, like the cycle of violence, and the pattern is that like if you lived through being bullied, then you get to dole out the bullying, and you get to be there at the court, and you get to pull out the buzzer and threaten to shave the girl's head off because you've been here, you've been on the other side of it. Kind of thing.
Yeah, which is like how indoctrination into this cycle of violence works, is that children at a young age are taught violence is this language of the society that they live in, and it's either through emotional violence or psychological violence or actual physical violence.
Exactly.
Right? And they're taught this you're initiated into the violent culture, and then you yourself become a perpetuator of that culture. And even though they think that they're stopping it by being violent, they're not. They're just perpetuating it. In fact, if they had succeeded in killing Tom or hurting him, the violence would have continued because that would have been the new rules.
Right, exactly. And that kind of gives credence to like the fact that all these guys that are there with Hale at that moment now they're all on redemptive journeys, because the fact that they joined the anti F4 group, they believe
they want something different.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
And that comes up as we'll see. So, okay. So so Hale gets really mad at Goya because he's like, you were supposed to like join us, look at you now, you've forgiven them.
Yeah.
And then he says like, why don't like you should bring back that rage. They show us that he's been watching her with Tom, which we knew that was probably the case.
How Tom duped you. You should have known better.
Yeah.
Okay, I have like a meta question for you. And this is going to bring us back to our Star Wars fandom when we were all like, Ben Solo, he's totally on a redemptive arc. We're here to cheer him on. Right? Yeah. Go Kylo Ren and your redemptive arc. And how many times were you told, you're just falling for a pair of pretty eyes of Ben Solo or Kylo Ren?
You just like Kylo Ren because he's played by Adam Driver and you think Adam Driver's hot.
Yes, exactly. How did he dupe you into thinking that this character was not, a low-life villain? Turn back now, oh woman who likes redemptive people or villains even.
Yeah.
Or even fictional characters.
I literally just had somebody in my mentions but a few days ago tell me that Kylo Ren is actually Gaston and not the Beast. And I was about to throw hands. I was like absolutely not.
I'm gonna throw you out. We've talked about this. Was one of like our second episodes of the podcast that we've ever recorded together, was us talking about these fairy tale comparisons, and how these archetypes work. And like, if people are on redemptive arcs, like you have to like, kind of emotionally cheer them on because they're redeeming you at the same time as you're experiencing it psychologically. So it's really important. And like, this is like a meta of anti-culture.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
100%. The entire idea,
it's not too late, silly woman. Yeah. I can't believe you've been duped. You should have known better than to be like cheering on a redemptive villain.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, I made that noise.
So I missed something earlier. I did want to say that Hale was already taught the lesson of nonviolence, right?
Yes.
So
he was, yeah.
He's already been taught this, but he didn't learn it. And this is like really important because Tom, we've talked about Tom regressing. We talked about him, again, we just talked about redemptive arcs. Like when you're on a redemptive arc, you don't necessarily learn everything after one lesson. Like sometimes you have to have that lesson taught to you in many different ways, repetitively, in order to actually learn it. And that's what Hale is teaching us here as well. He is, and just like with Tom, you're doomed to repeat the same mistakes if you don't actually learn from the lesson that was taught to you.
Yeah.
And
this is a psychological change journey, which is actually like a sort of corkscrewing internal wheel, and at any point you can pop out to an outer circle and regress to an earlier stage, because it's very, very hard to change habits and psychology, and to give up the habit, the ingrained knowledge of violence and domination.
Exactly. Especially when you like lose that person for a hot minute, right? Because Phupa being in the hospital is not near him as much anymore. So he goes really extreme. Goya kind of chastises him here a little bit, which I found very enjoyable, but I also thought it was reminiscent of the scene in the classroom where Tom acts out and regresses and threatens her with violence. Goya has this tendency to just start chastising violent people.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work.
It's very, very dangerous in real life. Just
yeah. Oh, this is, and okay, that's funny that you just said that, because that makes me think of the American monomyth. They talk about this a lot, about how in the American monomyth, especially feminine characters tend to fight with their words.
Yep.
But how in real life that's actually incredibly dangerous, because the other side, the violent side, is taught to react to words with physical violence. So that is like a thing. But
yeah, he isn't willing to hurt her, which is really interesting, because she's his like shadow self version of Phupa too, right? She's trying to convince, like this is playing out because she's like his Phupa in a way, right? Because Phupa would say, don't do this, I don't condone with this, but he's trying to convince her that this is right.
Yeah,
just like he would try to convince Phupa, but he knows he can't.
Yeah. Something interesting here too is that this play that's happening between them is a little sexual in a way, and like again, like I regardless of sexuality, in the manga, for instance, the character here actually forcefully kisses the female lead and she bites his lip. And so he starts bleeding, and then they're like by themselves in that moment. And so then when the goons come in, they call him out on his bleeding lip, and they're like, what happened to you? And he's like, nothing happened, it's fine. And it's funny that like this whole, like all of this monologuing, all of this is really just poking at his ego. And it's really just like poking at like, what he actually wants. And that is, it's so much more, because there's more going on, there's more dialogue, there's more meaning. But classically, this was a lot more physical. It was like more of a physical struggle between them, and about dominating and about action and about more violent.
There was a lot of not to draw another Star Wars parallel, but like Rey and Kylo, like the interrogation scene, there's a lot of that. Like he's not winning against her because she's like pulling on his light side, and he's like, no, I'm dark side, remember? Like there's a lot of that happening in this scene. Because this is Shadow Tom, remember that?
Exactly.
And this is Shadow Goya, or Shadow Phupa to
Talay.
Yeah,
they're having this conversation in this dark place with the light shining on them. I mean, this is their subconscious selves chatting, essentially.
Yeah, this is their other half having an argument with them. And yeah, like in some ways it's like former Tom, exactly everything that you disliked about Tom out there on display, and allowing Goya a chance to work through and realize, no, there's good, and I see the difference. Like it's helping her see the difference and see where he's at, and that he is worth saving.
Exactly. It's essential to what's going to happen.
It's brilliant.
It's so good.
Brilliant.
So then we get him saying, basically again, drawing the comparison between like people like the F4 and them, and he says that they are evil by nature. And I love this so much, because in restorative fiction, no one is evil by nature.
And also this ties to, because all men have received the cards, men are inherently violent.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's saying both those things.
Yeah, it is.
It's saying, no, actually, this isn't the way people are. And like, there's this myth that men must be violent to be men.
Again, Halay, you learned this. You were taught this lesson, but you didn't learn it.
Yeah.
So then Goya challenges this notion very directly, and she says,
"Is that actually true?
Is that actually true?" And I love his look on his face right before they do the flashback, because he is again turning those wheels and working through his own stuff. And then we flash back to Halay slapping Tom, trying to egg him on, trying to get him to hit him.
Yep.
In the parking garage. And Tom does the same move that he did with Goya in the classroom, where he threatens violence, but ultimately does not give into it. And then Halay has to fake getting hit by Tom in order to keep up the ruse.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is not told, like, Halay doesn't explain what happened to Goya, but we have to kind of assume that she comes to that realization, because in the next scene, she says, "I'm so mad at myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if only I'd looked closer, you never would have fooled me."
Yeah.
And she's like,
and
she
we
realizes,
can work on this together.
Yeah.
We can solve this together. Like, this is different. There is a way out. We just haven't thought of it yet.
Mm-hmm.
And this is really important, because like Halay, people think it's too late all the time. This is also like a meta conversation on like people and characters and like life. People always think it's too late. Well, okay, if you're dead, it's too late.
Yeah,
that's the truth, right?
Yeah,
but it's never too late. And this is also repeated multiple times later on. It's never too late. It's never too late.
Yeah,
that's the start of it.
That brings us back to like the theme of time. Time is running out and all of that. I mean, we've already seen, like, what, 2 episodes ago they told us time is running out, and yet we're still working through our stuff, because it's never too late. Yeah. So, and then he gets mad again. Goya, just, you're chastising him, it's not gonna work.
And he's not gonna listen, and he tries to shock her into stopping, right? That's also a tactic of,
it's violent.
We like women or men who challenge this culture of violence, truthfully, because this is what it is. It's like violence meets violence stuff, right? People react violently towards that, either emotionally or physically or psychologically, right? Like people react very badly to this, because this is a massive shadow part of all of our cultures. I don't think there's a non-patriarchal culture in the world right now. Just gonna throw that out there. But then we have Tom appear in this, and I thought they would like linger on him. Like, when we saw this in the preview, I was like, oh, this is gonna be like a heroic moment. But no, they shift focus immediately to Shadow Tom or Talay, because the focus is on the confrontation and the conflict, the emotional conflict that's happening between him and Goya, and who's going to win in that moment. And who's going to, will it be violence, or will it be like non-violence that and compassion that Goya actually represents?
And this is where we also start getting the idea of, Halay saying the end is always going to happen the same way. This is always going to end the same way. This is a meta commentary on like us knowing, if you know the story, if you're familiar with the story, this scene. This is an iconic scene that's coming, and there are certain character motivations that are already set in place that typically don't change until this version, because the whole point of him saying that is like telling us, no, this one is different, because it's different this time, because our characters are in different spaces internally. Their motivations are universe. Different. it's a different universe.
Yeah,
These are
and
different characters.
whenever they say like the ending is always the same, it's not going to be.
Yeah, it's very very meta. We do though, to your point about the non-lingering thing, at the end of that part is when Tom comes in, and then Hale leans into Goya and's like, he says what he says about ending's always the same. We see Tom again, and then it cuts to the next part, and the next part they show Tom running in again, and this time Hale swings around, gives him that great sexy look, and then Tom is like, what do you want, or let Goya go. And then they get their little confrontation. So there was a little bit, like, it wasn't lingering, but they did show it twice.
They showed it twice. Yeah. But like in that moment, I was surprised. Like this is when he first appeared, and they focused back on the confrontation between Goya and Hale. I'm like, oh, okay. So all of the past stuff is gonna come out when he's like, I won't hurt her, unlike you, like slap in the face, like, and what? Tom just takes responsibility for everything.
Yeah, immediately. Again, this is just telling us that like Tom's already learned, he has learned this lesson, but Hale has not. And like you said, to your point, like Goya needs to see this. She needs to see that extreme of someone who hasn't learned the lesson, who should have, and then someone who has, that she didn't think actually learned it. So
in so many ways, this play is all just for Goya to work through her all her psychology. Happening.
It's like the two parts of her animus inside of her, like fighting it out to try to figure out how she feels about this person. Like it's so good. So we get the
one is in light white and one is in very dark.
Exactly. So Hale holds up the red card and he's like, are you gonna admit that you're the one that's responsible for all this? And of course he says, yes, it all comes from me, the bullying, everything, the red card, all of it comes from me. And
divine king, righteous ruler stuff, right? Because he's recognizing he controls how the society enacts his rules.
He's taking full responsibility for it. It's so sexy. And then Hale like clobs him in the face, like just punches him, and then that's when they start the beating, which we know from previous versions this was coming, but it doesn't happen in the same way, which is great. So in the previous versions, every single one of them, the conflict here is that the male lead doesn't fight back because the Hale character threatens her and says, if you fight back, I'm going to hurt her.
Yeah, he uses her as like blackmail in some ways for him to not enact violence back. But this is completely different when he says, I won't hurt her first. So he sets the ground rules, and then it's not about her.
Yes, this is not about you anymore, Goya. As soon as he showed up, you have no more use for me anymore. Like, this is all now about Tom. And it's so good. So
this is exactly like traditionally in fiction, you might see this as a mirrored fight with a dark version of yourself. This is literally like a perfect example of how the mirrored self can be in somebody else.
This is that what's that one movie, the Wolverine movie,
Old Man Logan one?
Logan. That one, he fights his like shadow self. I always think about that because it's done so well. But it's like Logan, where he fights his shadow self.
Anytime a superhero fights a version of themselves with a darker past that has the same superhero powers, that's a shadow version of themselves.
Exactly. And they're typically evenly matched. And so then
one is willing to fight dirty,
exactly. And one of them is more righteous. And so they start giving him the beating of his life, and Goya starts yelling, and eventually it gets to Hale's head, and he like visibly becomes frustrated with her. And then he turns around and he's like, this is not about you.
But isn't it a beautiful shot?
Yeah, oh my God, I love this so much. Okay, I have something to say about this. Yeah, beautiful sight. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he
calls it beautiful, I think 3 times.
He does. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in previous versions, before the male lead starts taking the beating, he tells the female lead to close her eyes.
Yeah.
Because he knows that he's not going to fight back. And there's like this relationship that they've built at that point, typically where he knows that it would hurt her to see him hurt, but that's not where we're at with these two. No. So Talay, instead, again, we're going off of stuff that we've seen, but they do it differently. He tries to force her to look and to kind of relish in it the way that he's relishing in it. And she refuses just out of pure spite. And then he gets up on the chair and he does that little like thing with his fingers where he's like, this is beautiful. I can't believe I can't post this on social media. And to me, that also spoke to a lot of people online that I saw who talked about like wanting to see Tom get beat up over Goya. Like, so it wasn't enough that nobody wants to see Goya get beat up, right? We don't want to see this violence enacted, to her. Like, it's uncomfortable. But we also understand, like, for the story, it's purposeful. And I've seen a lot of people say, like, why does she have to take the chair? Why can't Tom take the chair? Or why can't, and I'm like, wait a second. Why does anybody have to take the chair if we're going to take that stance? Because essentially,
okay, go ahead. I have thoughts.
Yeah, because the story is not about retribution. It's not about who deserves violence more. It's about no one deserves violence.
But like, that's not how it's framed in previous versions.
Exactly. It's meta.
So it's a meta commentary on even previous versions. And yes, you're completely right. This is retributive justice that they are trying to enact, right? They're trying to make him feel the pain that they as victims felt, right? Like this is really, really important. And it all ties to this societal idea that retributive justice is doing it because it's necessary, because but society often falls into like a sadistic attachment to violence and pain, like and that's like the beautiful comment, because we experience schadenfreude, right? The pleasure derived by somebody else's misfortune, when somebody we view to be a bad person experiences pain. And you see it all the time on social media, right? You see like, oh, this person had a misfortunate thing happen to them, and so, oh, that feels good for us. But we get caught into this cycle. And in the previous versions, the male lead takes the violent action to save her, and it's framed in this like, I'm willing to die for you type of framing, which is entirely like patriarchal.
Yeah, the sacrificial.
It's the American monomyth. Ty and I have talked a lot about this, that like, only through my death can I prove that I am worthy to you. And yeah, we get caught up in that concept, but in truth, it's through living that you can prove that you're worthy to another person. It's through love, it's through compassion, it's through being there, it's through connection to your own emotions,
it's through passing things down that you've learned to the next generation.
Yeah. but we as a society, especially this patriarchal one that we all live under, are caught up with this cult of death and this cult of like, how much can I sacrifice for another person to prove that I am worthy of them?
Exactly. Oh, this is going to get into some interesting stuff whenever he does accept that. One of the goons basically kicks Goya while she's in the chair, and it's very violent. And Halay's really mad because he didn't tell him to do that. And this is like Halay taking up this unrighteous
ruler
role.
Yeah, he's taken over for Tom.
Yeah.
Right. And it's about domination.
Exactly.
The society of this violence is around dominating others. And if you do something that you're not allowed to do under this society, I must stop you. Even if it was enacting violence that was in the same vein as, and especially against women, that's also a thing. Like public violence against women, because women are like under the patriarchy and are supposed to be protected. But
well, it goes back to that episode, right? The first time that
women had never been chosen, right? Like a girl had never been chosen
with the red card. And and they when the boys went and were, you know, hurting, which actually one of the guys is there, at least that we know of, one of the main bullies, you know, when they grabbed Goya and they were trying to take, like, kind of rip her clothes and like take a video of her and all of that, that was they were punished by Tom in the pool because he did not tell them to do that. He told them to do something. He did not tell them to do that. And he was mad about it. So this is very much reflecting that instance from before where he slams the bottle over the guy's head and, you know, kind of beats him when he's down. Like, I didn't tell you to do that.
And he doesn't stand up. That guy, he's hurt. He's
bleeding real bad.
Yeah.
Really bad. But this is interesting because this starts the moment like where all of the other guys are like, oh no, what have we done?
Yeah.
And, you know, we didn't sign up for this. We didn't expect this. We thought we were moving past this, and here we are. We just created another monster.
Yeah.
So then he goes over to Tom and starts kicking him while he's down. And this is kind of Halay's moment of it kind of really going down the road of just insanity.
Yeah, there's a horror music that plays when he stands up after he beats him.
Yeah.
It was shocking for me.
It was really cool.
And I do have a Bell Hooks quote if you would like.
Yes.
So that love and domination can coexist is one of the most powerful lies patriarchy tells us all.
Oh, that's heavy.
And Goya is pleading with him. She's like, you're still a good person, you know, all the time that he's like kicking the guy. And like, it's really, really, really important for us to understand that these two things, like the violence and the domination of this society, Tom has already realized he cannot coexist with those two things. And it will be so important in the next scene.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Tom even tells him in that moment, you know, just, you don't have to do this. Like, you can stop.
Yeah. And he's giving him options, and Halay is like trying to prove how happy and whole he is with the violence.
And Tom says, is this the face of someone who's happy? And I think that's when he starts crying.
Yeah. And I have another quote because I have all the quotes. Sorry. More bell hooks. So again, just read all of the bell hooks. Like, she's amazing, but especially the will to change, shouting that out now. Men who win on patriarchal terms end up losing in terms of their substantive quality of life. They choose patriarchal manhood over loving connections, first to foregoing self-love, but then also the love that they could give and receive that would connect them to others. He is literally disconnecting himself from the society that is around him that was supporting him.
Right.
On the screen, and it's self-mutilating. This is the lie that you will be happier if you're dominating others. You will be happier if you are enacting violence on others, but you can't, because you cannot hope to connect with others if you are enacting domination and violence against them.
Exactly. Yeah. This is the moment where he definitely like tries to forgo his humanity and he tries to disconnect himself from his love from Phupa, because if he thinks about Phupa, then that's all going to flood back, and that's actually kind of what happens here.
It is exactly what happens, because like, you know, Tom is like, you've got a chance to change. You don't have to do this if you don't want to.
Yeah.
He's crying. He's literally so connected. And Tom says, don't worry, I won't die easy. And that's like a formative thing about this male lead in all versions of Hana Yori Dango. He's like got tougher skin, or like he just like, he can't get hurt as easy. He heals easier than other people. Like he's tough and he can withstand this, but it is so differently framed in this version, and in such a wonderful and refreshing way.
Absolutely. Well, he's the divine child. He's destined to be king. He's going to be the ruler. So essentially he can't die. Like, that's his role that he is playing in this story, in this myth.
Kind of fate won't let him, because he has a role to play in society. It's a little weird. We're talking about fairy tale stuff.
Right. Of course.
But you know, Goya is like, why aren't you defending yourself? Like you should, you know, it's like society asking somebody like, why don't you fight back? Because he's fighting you. You're justified in this. It's like society reminding him, no, this is justifiable violence.
Yeah, because that's where she's at in her
that's
journey.
Where yes, exactly. Yes. Oh my god, it makes me so like excited, because we can see where they're at, and like he's grown because of her inspiration, but she hasn't grown because of his inspiration yet.
Yeah, we've seen Goya use violence a lot, and we even see
it in this episode.
Yeah, like how like says like, where's that rage? Where is that rage? And that's a big thing in like heroine's journey, is when your rage is like good and when it's bad, and like she is fighting to try to get out of that. When she's contained, she's fighting so hard to get out, and she uses it to finally free herself. This is our heroine Goya finally throwing herself over Tom, and it's just so satisfying.
I have one last thing when he says, you know, if I fight back, I lose myself. Okay.
Oh yeah, I'll lose. He says, if I fight back, I'll lose, which meant something different in previous versions.
Yeah, he'll lose because they're gonna go and beat up Goya, but that's not a threat in this. He's gonna lose himself. So it's like, ultimately, another Bell Hooks quote. Sorry, just bear with me. There's so many, but ultimately, the men who choose against violence, against death, do so because they want to live fully and well, because they want to know love.
Exactly. Yeah, like he's not gonna. He doesn't
want to lose what he's gained.
Exactly. If he fights back, he regresses. If he fights back, he'll lose his humanity. If he fights back, he doesn't know which Tom is going to come rushing back into him, just like with Talay. Like he knows, because he can see it. He can see it in Talay. He can see his shadow self, and he doesn't want to be him. Ugh.
And it's like, and if you die, maybe I'll feel better.
Yeah, maybe I'll feel better. And so is Talay.
This is redemptive death stuff, right? This is from a metatextual perspective, redemptive death. If we kill these baby redemptive villains, will we as a society feel better?
And no, of course not. But we
think it does, because that's what patriarchy is, and the culture of violence and domination tells us we will. These people deserve to die, and so when they were redeemed, when they're, you know, are redeemed through death, that's the ultimate sacrifice to society, that they no longer exist. But really, the ultimate sacrifice to society is upcoming. Spoiler alert.
Totally, exactly.
And breaks free.
She breaks free through her rage. Again, I just love how much she's screaming and stuff. It's so good. It's so good. She gets whacked by the stool, and then we get the flashback. Yep. The flashback of Talay and Phupa again. And they've really layered it on. the symbolism, which is so good.
This love is just as important. So you can stop, stopping Halay in his emotional moment. And then somebody described this moment like very Renaissance painting, like with everybody standing around with like it's Pieta in a way. It's like
right.
It's weird because they're both doing Pieta to each other, which is like pity, right?
Yeah,
that's what it means. But it's like they're both doing it to each other, which I was like, wow, that's powerful.
I really, I love that. Yeah, it's powerful because the people that are watching it are being affected by it. Like this is like literally it's telling us that this is how we heal the community. Like this is how we heal society. And somebody did point out that, like you said, it's like a Renaissance painting, but it also is very evocative of like Romeo and Juliet.
Yep.
And they're like how they kind of sacrifice themselves because like for each other. And they did that here. Like they literally like both of these characters sacrifice themselves for each other. And that's what makes it a non-patriarchal like story, because together and only together can they actually heal the community and bring about like this, the non-patriarchal rule and influence. And that
you can't be on either side, right? You have to be together forging a new path. This is middle path thinking. This is Mask of God stuff. If you've read Campbell, it's like Rumi, the quote,
Rumi quote spot.
Rumi quote spot.
Rumi stuff. Yeah, it's great.
Out there is a field, and together you and I will be there, right? Like that kind of idea. Like the idea that
meet me in the middle.
We're gonna find a alternative path to this ending. This ending, we don't like it. We're gonna change it.
Yeah. Again, Halay saying we know how this is going to change, and no, because it's about Tom and Goya forging a path together, and it's only for them to through love, and it's only for them to figure out this is not about you, Halay.
Shadow self version of Tom.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I also love how the one of the background characters is looking at his hands as well. Like, so Halay is looking at his hands, but also this random actor is also looking at his hands. And again, it's just telling us that like this society is being healed slowly but surely by the love that these two have. And I also want to call out that the actor that plays is his name Fluke? Is that the actor's name?
It's Fluke.
Okay. Yeah. So
Fluke is the actor.
Is the actor. He's the actor. Yeah. So he's the one who plays the very well-known bully that's on the left, and he's like in every darn scene. Should probably figure out what his name is, but he actually posted on social media. He posted on TikTok a TikTok of Bright and Two while they were kind of behind the scenes
in this scene, sitting next to each other, and his face is
his face. He films them, and then it cuts to him like covering his face and making this like cringy face, like, oh my god, I can't believe what's happening kind of face. And that's it. That's the TikTok, but it literally represented my entire mood, like watching them together, and it was just so precious. So I really loved that. I love this image. Oh, and also one more thing was that if you look at Tom's hand on Goya in that shot, it's moving. Like he's like touching
Wake
her.
up.
He's like, because he's, that he's fixing to pass out, because that happens in every version. Like it's, the male lead typically passes out. It's only in like this one, and I guess, well, I don't know exactly which ones, but it's very few that she passes out first. So usually he passes out first and then she passes out. But yeah, so it's just sweet. All right, hospital scene.
Almost immediately after.
Yep. She wakes up, and Honey tells her that it's been a few days.
Yeah. And she's like, so what happened? And then she eventually gets around to like saying Tom, right? And Honey tries to explain, but like is like not sure how. I wanted to understand this.
I know. I'll tell you what's going on. I know exactly what's going on.
Okay, tell me, because
Haning was on the phone with Gawin.
Yeah.
And then when Goya woke up, she said, "Oh, she's awake now. I have to go."
And
because
he's like,
she
don't
knew,
say anything.
Yes, because she
He
knew that
said-
they were going to do the hospital prank. And they all knew that her first thought when she woke up was that she was going to figure out where Tom was.
Yeah.
So they literally all got into position, including Haning, to enact the hospital prank, or the whatever you want to call it.
My girl, you're her bestie, her lady in waiting.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, but she's but they all know at this point that it's best for Goya. They all know Goya loves him. They just need her to admit it. And like, if we're good, if that's how this story is written, gosh darn it, I'm okay with it. I know that there's there's better ways to admit one's feelings, but
she's very stubborn.
She's very stubborn. Yeah.
Yeah. And the sad act and the covered in the sheets.
I love that. Like,
you can see his feet.
You can't. I just noticed that. I did not notice that before.
No, you can. I have a note. Like, I'm like, he's so tall. When they covered him with the sheet, you can see his feet. Like, wouldn't she be like, that's so weird? But no. She was too depressed that he might be dead.
Rin covers his face. Like, I know, it looks like he's trying to keep from like smiling and like giving it away.
Yeah. And then eventually we get MJ when she starts like talking to him, like him smiling behind his hand.
That's after she confesses.
That's after. The reveal is so good.
So I wanted to cover something though before we continue with the scene. So Goya admits her feelings here. Mm-hmm. She says, she did say, "I haven't told you since the first day we met that I hate you. I also haven't told you that I love you." And this is like that whole like love and loathing kind of thing that they have. But this is pushing us in the right direction, at least. And Emily on Twitter sent me this, and she's studying, I think she's studying nursing. And so she's taking like developmental psychology courses, and this is something she came across in her textbook recently, which I thought was so funny. And she sent it to me with some text what she thought was going on in the story. So I just wanted to share with everyone because I just really think it's a cool graphic, and it really explains a lot about our characters and what they're feeling. And you can kind of apply this to Goya, you can apply this to Hani, you can apply this to Gawin, to Tom, like it can apply this to everyone. But essentially you can see here that there are different types of love. There is infatuated love, empty love, romantic love, liking, and then there's consummate love. And consummate love is a combination of commitment, intimacy, and passion. And then all of the others are either just one of those things or they're two of those things. So, for example, romantic love is intimacy and passion, but it's missing commitment.
Right.
Or companionate love is commitment and intimacy, but it's missing passion. But consummate love has all of those things. And I find that so beautiful because you can definitely see that like Gawin, for example, has intimacy with
and passion,
right?
Yeah.
But not commitment. You can see that Goya for Tom maybe has commitment, but not intimacy or passion. So she's like an empty love.
Yeah.
And Tom has passion and commitment, but no intimacy, but that's mainly because of Goya. And that's fatuous love. So it's just interesting. So have fun with that one, everyone. And thanks, Emily, on Twitter.
It's cool. Yeah. I love that she yells at him, and it's like a sort of a summarization of her perspective, which is like, I hate you. I have so many mean things I need to say to you, and I never got a chance to tell you I loved you.
Yeah. It's literally like, it's like 10 things I hate about you speech. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. It was great. And
it was great.
Oh my God, their faces.
I love faces. You see Gawin's face?
Yeah.
You see Gawin's face too? Like, look at him. He's like, he goes through this emotion. Oh, it's so good. I love all of them so much.
Covering his face. And I have a slight question. Is Dew upset that she's finally admitting it? Or is Ren upset?
I don't think Ren's upset. I think that that's coming. I think that that's down the line. I think that because he got hurt in this whole situation, I'm sure that he's happy that they're finally just kind of reconciling this part of their relationship, especially with the way that he leaves the hospital. You know, I think he's fine here. I think that's going to come later. I really do. I really do.
Let's talk about our symbolically reborn baby.
Yes. And MJ says this.
My
boy says, you know,
Pitam revived from death.
Well, I guess like MJ and Gawain say this, but it's like MJ starts it and then he's like, let's cheers. And then Gawain says to Pitam has been revived from his death, and then they toss everybody a Coke or a Pepsi Cola. I don't know what you call it. Escola. Sorry, yeah. They go
Sorry, we got to get the advertisements right.
Exactly.
For this brilliant show.
Somebody
on Twitter was like, "Why does Bright look like a little tiny baby here?" And I'm like, "That's purposeful."
Yeah, it's purposeful. Like, it's literally it's death and rebirth imagery.
Okay, so when you pass the second threshold in the hero's journey, you die and are reborn into a new version of yourself.
Exactly.
And Tom has died.
Yeah.
And has been rejuvenated and reborn due to Goya's love.
Exactly. He's reborn through her love. He is reborn
and there's
with
sparkles.
Oh my God.
There's freaking sparkles.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, okay, so when does this happen in, say, very similar fiction, Beauty and the Beast?
Oh, in the transformation?
Oh, because he's dead on the ground as the beast. And she's like, and I never got a chance to tell you I loved you. They're drawing a direct parallel to the Beauty and the Beast scene. And then he's reborn as a new man and he's transformed. And there's like the, like angel music as he like glows and turns into a man, right? Like, death and rebirth.
Exactly. And I have this later in a different slide, but in the Tom's hero's journey, there's a reason why I put a red rose in his apotheosis state. I literally use that as the symbol because like this is his transition from a black rose to a red rose. Like he's coming into his true self through the dying and then the resurrection. And like another thing is like he's shedding, like kind of like a phoenix being reborn.
Yeah.
He's shedded all of like that nastiness, like that crude oil that he had on him to make him like a black rose essentially. All of that is gone now. It doesn't mean that he's not going to make mistakes going forward, but he's not the same. He's a different person now.
I'm wondering if we will get him rechained the same way, and there's a difference in the chain that he's wearing later, but I don't know if we will. And this reminds me a lot of the Who Am I symbolism, where the black rose is literally like the
wilting
petals.
away.
Petals are coming off of it and blowing towards Goya, who's looking at the red rose and the tulip next to each other, and they're both in this like cream colored outfit with these little like green sprigs on the front.
That's true. I think it's blue because the hospital's got blue. But regardless,
it's green and blue. There's one.
Oh, you're right.
Green.
It's green and blue. That's so interesting. Yeah. So it's definitely like, it's healing. It's rejuvenation. It's reborn again. All of that. All right. So then we get more cuteness. I had to gif all of this because of course I did, because it's adorable. I love the part where MJ, like she chases MJ specifically and he jumps over Tom who's on the bed and then goes and hides behind the curtain. So
and Tom like catches her and is like, aren't you happy that I'm okay? Like are you?
I love that moment.
And he's like, I'm just so happy that you told me that you love me. And she smacks him with the pillow. At least she's using a pillow this time instead of her fists. Can we just be thankful for that? My girl, you need to stop using violence.
I know. Yeah. She's like, this is not a time to be romantic. But you can see like she's changed. Like she's going into the next phase of her heroine's journey, which is the realization of her own wants and needs.
Can we talk about how Gawain protects both Ren and Honey?
I love that so much. I love it. MJ just runs out of the room entirely because he's like, I don't know why I'm being targeted here, and then throws Gawain into the line of fire. And Gawain's like, all right, get behind me.
Yeah. But I love that like this is like how kingdoms kind of work. Like the queen, like it's not like Tom's gonna stop her. Yeah,
no, he's not, because he's the king and he's like chilling.
Yeah.
He's chilling. It's so good. God,
I love them.
It's so precious. All right, so then we get Lita showing up with the bouquet. I have some things to say about the bouquet. Like, obviously, we already know flower symbolism is important.
She's covered in chains, by the way.
Oh, yeah, she is. I noticed that because, her earrings are her
earrings and her purse is covered in chains. So she is like bound by whatever this is, right?
Well, I mean, we know that she's going to become a villain for a hot second, and that's okay. She has to be. She is the next obstacle. But the ultimate obstacle, the ultimate dragon is the mom, but and society as a whole, the nonviolence and all of that in society. But she is the next obstacle. She's going to be the next problem they have to get over. So that, I mean, sorry guys, like if you hate Lita now, like you're going to hate her even more, but like I still love her. Like I
no, my baby gets redeemed. Like everybody gets redeemed in this story, right? Everybody gets redeemed in this story. Let's just talk about that.
From her perspective, her actions make so much sense. Like I understand her. I don't know. I just
trying to find the cheater meme. The one where like somebody's like drawn like cheater on the side of a car, and I'm like, this is Lita to Tom's car.
Exactly.
Next episode.
Exactly. Yeah. And he hasn't
broken up with Lita yet. Like he is cheating on her. They said they would go out. Like he's being a bad boy because he's not fulfilling his commitment to her.
Exactly. Like this is a big problem. He's supposed to be with her. Yeah.
No, it's really funny because we're like, yay, Tom and Goya, but like he's also not doing a good thing.
No, and this actually goes in with his journey as well, which we'll talk about in a minute. But like this is not the end.
Sorry, I'm just giddy. I'm giddy excited. That's all. It's
clearly.
I'll stop talking.
Well, I'm trying to talk about the flower symbolism, okay?
Fine.
Okay, so basically she's holding pink roses, which you already know that means like love, new love, young love, whatever. But also she's holding eucalyptus. Eucalyptus is in this bouquet. And eucalyptus is an interesting choice because symbolically what it means is, eucalyptus has healing properties, right? Mm-hmm. It smells a certain way. It awakens your senses. It evokes clarity. Like it helps you to realize things. It helps you wake up. It also is high in oil content, which makes it tolerant towards cold climates, but it also makes it highly flammable.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting because this is basically like Lita's love for Tom basically just went up in flames, and she knows that in order to keep him, she's going to have to not play fair anymore.
Yeah.
She knows that now.
This is the spark that lit her aflame.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So clarity, it starts as healing, right? She wants to bring this bouquet to him because he's in the hospital, but it quickly becomes a
fire hazard.
Yeah. And clarity for her that she knows what she needs to do, or she at least knows what she shouldn't do.
She's gonna do it anyways.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So and then we get Gawain and Hunning. There's a small little scene where they're all walking away from the hospital together, the F3 and Hunning, and Gawain offers Hunning a ride, which is adorable.
It is adorable. Oh, I was just gonna take the bus, and he's like, "But have you ever been in a sports car?
Have you ever been in a sports car?" I cried during this scene.
I don't mean to laugh, but like,
no, it's fine. Laugh at me. I deserve it. I deserve it. Like, I did not. So I
like
cried.
the driving? Like,
Yeah. Because this is a teen girl fantasy.
Yeah.
100%. This is like, I miss movies that did this. I miss this. Like, this is so
they don't do this
fun.
anymore. This is and like it's like the ultimate, like, I have a big car, or I have a fast car, and I'm going to get your, okay, symbolically what this does, at least in the 1980s and 90s when they still did this in movies, is they would ride around with girls in their cars because they wanted to get their adrenaline going, and it's very similar to sex.
Yes,
metaphorically.
It gets them like flushed and
excited, and they want more, and then it turns into making out in a car. That's what this is.
It's exciting.
Don't get this anymore. On a side note, they played Best Life, which, while we've been recording, they dropped the music video for, which is Nani's solo song. I was like, I heard Best Life. That's a new song. I heard the words Best Life. That's Nani's song. Cool. And it's like framed around this scene.
I totally forgot about that. Yeah, they're playing it in the car. Totally forgot. I haven't checked out the music video yet, but I'm so excited because it's Nani. But yeah, I love this so much. This made me so happy. And she grabs the chair, like she grabs the headrest behind her, like when he speeds up, and she screams. Oh,
well, and
so
like
good.
Normally he, as the guy in the car driving, would like make sure she was clipped in okay. Before they left, right? Like, and it would be a reason to reach around her and clip her in,
right?
But he doesn't do that because he wants more like thrill and adrenaline and things like that. And she's like, oh my God, I barely survived this. But instead does the reach around move.
Yep.
For grandma's secret patterns.
The way that you said that.
The ancient garland knowledge of flowers.
Here's my grandma's secret recipes.
Let me show you, Hunning, the ways of the patterns. Oh, I can't find these on the internet. No. They're my grandmother's. You broke the audio.
I don't do that a lot. I don't need to. I'll cut it.
Oh no, don't cut it. It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. And like, this is showing that they've been communicating this whole time, and she's learned enough to learn his secret knowledge that he has to offer. This is a sex metaphor.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say.
He's
going to show her the secret knowledge that was taught to him by his grandmother.
I maintain that Hunning, this is my headcanon, Hunning learned the first patterns herself, did them herself, showed up to the graduation ceremony, gave him the bouquet with the
garland,
the garland on it, and that is what made him like realize that she is actually really skilled. Because I like the idea of Hunning doing that and proving to him that she could do it on her own. And that's
traditionally part of the character, though. Like when she explores tea, that's an exploration of her own interests in that.
Yes. And again, we've talked about this before, but the cycle of challenging is always so sexy to me. That happens in love stories, which is where the kind of this older, more experienced, typically masculine character challenges the younger, inexperienced feminine character into doing something that's a little out of her world, or a little, new to her, different for her, but stuff that she's curious about. And this is really like sexy. Like this is very sexy. Like, let me see what you can do. Let me challenge you to do something you don't normally do. And it's a game of, you know, it's challenging each other is sexy. It's exciting. And he is liking her more when she achieves those challenges, when she succeeds at those challenges. And she knows that, and she likes herself better when she achieves those challenges, because that's like a big, you know, feminine journey, heroine's journey thing, like beating men at their own games, or at least overcoming the challenges that are proposed by men. Like that's a big thing. So
if you like this, just search master student on my drama list as a tag.
That's what
Don't
it is.
worry,
Yeah.
there's a lot of them. Incurable case of love.
Yeah.
The J drama.
Yeah, it's a big one. It's a really big one in Asian dramas. But I love it. And I love it when it's done in this particular
they're doing it
way.
well. And this is a traditional part of these characters, right? Like this is, but they're stretching it out so their relationship doesn't feel like it kind of came out of nowhere.
Right.
They're giving us more little moments amongst the moments, right? And also retroactively telling us they've been communicating this whole time. More than just that one phone call.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And then he asked her if to look after Goya because things are going to get worse.
Yeah. Foreshadowing, which of course we, it's going to get worse. And then we get this amazing scene, which is pretty evocative of the scene that happened after the Hana fallout, where Tom decides that he knows what he needs to do, and he like goes back to the kingdom and he like fixes everything. But in that particular, in that scene where they solve everything, they basically string up the bullies by their toes and punish them. But now Tom, who has learned his lesson of nonviolence, has decided that in order to actually atone for everything, he has to apologize to every single person that has been affected by his bullying.
And I have some thoughts on the power of apology, if you would like to hear them.
Yeah, well, and I guess I'll just mention though quickly, I guess, that in the manga, that's not how he solved this problem.
Oh no, it was way more like the first.
Yeah, like how it was in the show before, where he gives them a list. Basically, he gives the F3 a list of the names of the people that were responsible for the whole kidnapping plot. And they even call it out in the manga that because he counted the punches and the kicks done against him. And one of them says, I thought he had grown up.
Yeah.
Because at that point, that character in the manga had not grown up. But that this is not the way that story goes in this one.
We have less episodes.
Yes, it has to grow up a lot faster.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just if you want to read a really powerful book, it's called The Power of Apology by Beverly Engel. It talks about how apologies help heal. And there's tons of theory about why this works and how basically it creates a more compassionate space for both the person apologizing and the person who is receiving the apology, even if they choose not to accept it, which is a completely valid way to exist. You don't necessarily need to accept the person's apology. And I really love how Hale in this moment calls out that it is selfish to apologize, because you want to be like forgiven, you want to feel better, or you just want to get out of this. And that many times is how we see apologies in this public sphere happen. People just want to get out of a punitive justice that is happening. But it's actually really key to eventual restorative justice, which I would like to talk about it a bit. Or now is
because we have Tom going to, they actually show us an example of him going to someone's house and getting down on his knees, and then the guy initially punches him because Tom allows him to do that, but that's not satisfying for him. So rather than stand above him, he also gets down on his knees and kind of embraces him, which is, again, king. Hello. He's literally bowing down to his king. Like, that's such a kingly thing to do too, to apologize, to bow down to a subject. And then the subject bows down to him because he like accepts him as his true king. I mean, that's the symbolism that's going on here. It's really wacko. Like, I was like, what? Like, this is so kingly. But it's so satisfying.
It ties into the comparison between punitive justice, which our entire, justice system, and also like private like court structure is entirely based on in most countries, which is that like only the wrongdoer gets punished. The focus is on the rule that was broken, and excludes the wrongdoer from it. It usually focuses on expulsion or like exile,
right,
exile from society.
Whereas
restorative justice actually talks about fixing everything that was affected in the instant as part of the response. It helps people understand how people were harmed and affected by what happened, and then actions are agreed upon to make things right. And then action is taken to repair the harm and help heal the community at large. And this is something like, as a parent, I've implemented in my own house, which when you wrongdo somebody in my house, you apologize first and foremost, because you actually have to admit that you're wrong as part of the apology and understand the level at which you were wrong. And then you seek to make it better by either asking the person, how can I make it better, or working with them to restore our household. Whatever that is. And
right.
It's just like, if we could start doing more of that, it actually helps not only the person who committed the wrong, the person who was wronged, but also the community at large be a better place.
Exactly. This is all about healing the community.
Which is, spoiler alert to the hero's journey, the elixir.
A lot of people don't realize this, but like that is the ultimate boon, is to heal the community. That's what the hero brings back. And people that read Hero's Journey like don't understand that because it's not
explicit.
It's not totally explicit. Campbell talks about it more later in his life, and but
can I talk about his shirt briefly? As he was getting punched. So
what does it say?
It's this gray color, and he's wearing brown on the bottom, so he's like down to it, but his shirt literally says essentials.
Oh, it does. It's funny
because he is down to his essentials of who he is.
I like that, because he's wearing gray. It's almost like, don't treat me different. Like, treat me however you need to treat me.
Don't treat me like the king who's wearing like the furs and all of that, right? And he's also wearing the necklace he wears later on as well.
He's already wearing it.
He's already wearing it.
What?
So
dying.
So okay, we'll get into the symbolism of his necklace and how he is no longer chained like he used to be in a moment. But we get this amazing moment where he talks about, I'm going to expose everything, and it needs to be fixed, and we have to bring everything out, even if that means I have to be punished, and we should fix it at the root. Right?
Yes.
And he thinks the root is Tom.
And then this is so good.
I died. I died cry, too, but I died. I had to stop and like freak out. I like Muppet Hand freaked out.
Me too. I screamed and I like and I flailed.
The bad
so
things
good.
that are happening, but we have our very, very smart Ren who realizes, oh no, wait, Tom was not the beginning of the red card.
Mm-mm. Nope. I love the quick flashing to everything in his mind, and it's just beautiful, his realization. And we know like this is setting us up for, it's like the beginning of the end kind of thing, which is so crazy that we're getting it now. We still have 5 episodes left. Like that's a lot to get to the final, like kind of what the final thing is about. But this is what the final thing is about, is stopping the cycle of violence. So
yes. And I have tons of bell hooks quotes about this, but I'm going to summarize it by saying that mothers basically commit maternal sadism to condition their children that it is the right of men to dominate others through violence.
Yeah.
And like, you're not a man in society unless you are willing to do violence amongst 2 others,
right,
who you dominate. And many mothers in patriarchal culture actually commit acts of violence, either emotionally, psychologically, or physically, on those they control. And that is pointed out by Rosalind literally saying, well, sometimes you just have to give them the red card.
Exactly.
Right? She is the originator of this culture of violence.
Yep.
Or she is the proponent of it. I shouldn't say she's the originator, because it's the society at large.
Right. Because we don't know why she started it. I think, you know, somebody pointed out that she could have been a Goya, like when she was younger. And I think in our comments last week, somebody mentioned that, and it would be very poignant if she had actually begun as, you know, someone who didn't have a lot, someone who was poor, who like married into wealth and then lost her husband, I guess, at some point, and then had to adapt to this masculine world because she no longer had her partner. That would be so interesting.
They wouldn't need much to explain what, and I fully, based on Ren's flash to Rosalind, we are getting a flash of the end dragon, basically the mother dragon. We're getting the final boss, right? But the final boss cannot be defeated in this story through violence. She can only be defeated through compassion and love and healing
and figuring out what made her like this in the first place.
Yep.
Yeah.
I definitely think we will get that. We have to. They're telling us this is the final boss, and they've just told us all of this backstory of Hale. So they're going to spend time with Rosalind to understand her. Yeah,
they have to. It's so interesting. So then we get the kidnapping again of Goya, which it was so cute because Tom immediately comes in and he's like, I told you to bring her here and you kidnapped her again. Like, you abducted her. Like, I didn't tell you to do that, which is such a funny little parallel from what we keep saying. But somebody did point out on Twitter that he just stepped out of the shower and because
he's drying his hair.
And oh god, it's killing me. But yeah, he dons his animal skins as soon as he gets out of the shower.
Do we want to talk about his clothing before we get too deep into the necklace and his clothing?
Let's talk about, well, I have the necklace in the next slide, but so we can quickly talk about, we have a slide on that, but we'll quickly just kind of summarize that. So he gets rid of the guys. He says, basically fills in Goya what's been going on, that he's been trying to fix everything because this is not over yet, and then again, this is kind of like speaking to Goya still being very ignorant about, you know, his role and about all that he has to do and his responsibility. And because she has no idea, like, this, of course this is not over, you know. And he tells her that he met with Hale and Ren, and he basically was faced with this decision, and she asked him what his decision was, and okay. So she asked him what his decision was, and he basically said that he already made the decision. Like, he kind of made it seem like he hadn't made up his mind yet. So then she was like, what will you do? And he's like, I already did it.
I already did it. Yeah.
And the decisiveness is so sexy. But he went ahead and he, believing that he posted the video, decided to take the fall for all of this. Let's just get it over with. And it's really great because it's saying that for one, Hale, in the challenge to him in this way, you know, Atelier is still acting out his idea of like, this is how it's supposed to end. Like, you're supposed to go down. You're supposed to get retribution.
I'll go down with you.
Right. I'll go down with you.
Both self-sacrificing for the better tomorrow. But the thing is, like, you can only make a better tomorrow by living. Like, that's.
Yeah. And when Tom decides to take this into his own hands, from his perspective, he is saying, you don't have power over me because I'm going to take responsibility for what I'm doing. You have no power here. This is all on me. This is about me. This goes into your point. So, all right. So
I'll bring it up later.
It's okay. So let's talk about. Okay. So first of all, this is really important. So everything that's happening here goes into Tom's hero's journey. We talked about how at the beginning of the episode, he was at the second threshold. The episode's called The Atonement. He reaches that with being in the abyss is like getting beaten to a pulp, basically. And then in that kind of moment, he reaches his own atonement, which is his own, his peacefulness, is that at oneness with himself, and basically forgiving himself and being at peace with what he has done and who he is. He symbolically dies, and then he is revived into a state of apotheosis or realization. I mentioned this earlier because I mentioned the fact that the red rose, that's a Beauty and the Beast symbol. It's also Tom's symbol of turning from a black rose to a red rose. And this is where we're at with Tom right now. And reaching his apotheosis. All right, so let's talk about what that means.
And he's worn this necklace before. He wore it when he first spent the night with Goya in his house.
And it's a T, so it's like, it's not clear. It's not what we're saying it is explicitly, but it looks like it. So it's a T. It's like a diamond encrusted T, but it's hooked onto a very large ring. Yeah.
Which, I mean, even on surface, if it wasn't an Ankh, it also looks like a femme symbol, like a femme.
Yes. Femme, it's like femme
as in feminine symbol.
So yeah, because there's just so much here.
The femme symbol comes from, similarly to the Ankh, which is the cosmic force of growth, life, the ability to bring life to others. It actually has like a ton to do with like reproduction and creation.
Well, the Ankh is also a combination of ancient feminine and masculine symbols.
Yes. It is the power of the universe, basically.
The key of life. It represents duality. It represents the divine right to rule, because a lot of pharaohs carried this key, this symbol. It's harnessing the power of both, meaning the both is anything. It's duality. So it's light and dark, good and bad, masculine and feminine, this or that, right or wrong. I mean, it's all of that. It's harnessing the power of everything.
It's Mask of God stuff. It's finding the power beyond duality and
the between. And it's essentially, it's more than man. And the reason why that's important is because apotheosis, this part in Tom's hero's journey, is essentially him becoming godlike. And it's him escaping mortal consequences. He is no longer, and we said this earlier, right? When he got
Yeah.
beat up, he
couldn't
can't
die.
die.
Yeah.
Because in this part of his journey, he is ascending to the level of like godhood. It's kind of like, you know, like Hercules, like actually becoming a demigod. It's like kind of like that. It's like he like levels up to, because he goes through such a tragedy and he loses so much, and he, you know, is at the lowest point of his life, but he also realizes something in that moment. He therefore ascends to a higher level of being.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is all just like mythology. This is fairy tale.
Well, and it's like it's also because it's a combination of masculine and feminine, like this duality. It's the feminist masculinity.
Yes. Yeah. And I know you have a lot to say on that. It's definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Go
It's
ahead.
just like he's literally wearing like the symbol of his transformed self because of Goya. Like he's wearing a version of Goya on his chest, or what he feels like he has become through Goya.
Oh my God. I just realized that like a long time ago, I don't know if we were talking about it on the side or if we actually talked about it in the show, but I was like, I really want Tom to have like a necklace.
Yeah. Like a nice necklace. Yeah.
Like
instead
that
of a
means
chain.
something. Yes, because he's clearly going to keep wearing accessories, but like something that's not a chain. Like this is it. This is this. I mean, there might be another version
later. He did
later,
wear it before the whole Ren conflict, right? Yeah,
right.
He did wear it. So it's been there, and I just want to see him more unchained, right? Like that's I love this. This is such a solid symbol for where he's at. Thanks to Noodle Doodle, who we talked about. Had an exceptional thread on Twitter at Noodle Doodle. Like, go look at their thread. It was amazing. They also have contributed to my thoughts on his shirt and costume. So,
oh yes. All right.
Can we talk about
yeah.
Okay.
I gotta hear this.
People are like, Marie Claire. I don't understand.
And Marie Claire's like, I know.
Why is he back in his animal skins? I'm like, okay. So he has integrated a piece of the beast in himself into him. He's eaten his shadow. This is part of him. This allows him to play with that shadow and allows him to be like, he's not controlled by it. He can
harness it
from it and harness it, right? And Noodle Doodle said now he's comfortable in his animal skin and embracing his inner beast that remains.
Yes.
And he won't be overpowered by it. The actual leopards on it are symbolic for power. In India, leopards also refer to protection. And amongst that, I also feel, because there are 4 leopards on his shirt, it is the rest of the F3 and Goya who are with him now.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
And within that protection, it is because he literally thinks he's going to be hauled away and taken to like jail or consequences or punitive justice. He actually asks in a moment after the apotheosis moment, am I not being punished?
Yeah.
And it's because he was ready for war. He was ready. He armored up in his beast skin.
Yeah.
But it was a beast skin that was playful.
Yeah. I love that. I think it's amazing.
Like, it's gentle and silken and like, but like he still was ready for war.
Yeah.
He knew people like it's kind of the same as like when the village comes after the beast. Like he's still in his beast skin, right?
Right. But he's like he's ready to go willingly in order to atone more, in order to continue this.
But like he armored up to survive. Traditionally in animal husband stories, the beast skin is fully removed at some point and burned. Right. That's traditionally how it's handled. And because he's
typically burned by the wife or by the mate.
Yeah. It's typically burned by the mate. It's destroyed. Sometimes it's eaten too. Well, that's some shadow eating stuff too. But
that'll be fun.
Yeah, it's just important where he's at in his journey. Again, like he's ascended to God kinghood, and so he can own this because he is owning the shadow parts of himself.
Well, yeah, and it's like what we were talking about a second ago, which is that it's overcoming duality, but it's also harnessing the duality. So
you have that power with you now.
Exactly. You are both light and dark. You are both beast and man. You are both, you contain your humanity within you, but you also contain, your inhumanity. You understand these parts of yourself and why they're there and how to harness them. Oh, so good. I love Apotheosis. It's so interesting. All right. So this is where this all kind of occurs. He's willing to accept these consequences.
Yeah.
Goya is upset that this is happening. Yeah, like
she's like, I just admitted I loved you.
Yeah, and now you're
gonna go away. Like, that's not fair. Like, hello, we hate that as well. Kiss and then death, right? Literally, he's willing to die. Like, that's metaphorically what's happening. He's willing to be exiled from society. That is punitive justice. You're either exiled or you die. Like, that is it sucks. And no, the plots and the writers will not let that happen because it's not a requirement except under patriarchy.
Exactly. Yes, because the story is anti-patriarchal. They're showing us that. So now the villain, the Talay, is saying, I understand now, and you don't have to take punishment for this. Like, this is, I understand now. You essentially healed me. And it's not just her, it's the two of them together that have healed him.
He has a message for both of them. Like, he's sorry for the wrong that he did to Goya.
Yep.
And that he's also like, he's decided to forgive Tom.
The F4. I'm no longer going to take my revenge out on them. Thank you for helping me figure this out. But it was the two of them that did change his mind, essentially.
And we get the flashback of the conversation as it happens, him talking about everything next.
Yes. So then because Tom says, wait, so I'm not being punished?
Yeah. Which is the thing. Like, it's like, no, you're not, right?
Yeah.
Like, and
they start fighting, which is cute. But then they start fighting, and they cut to Halay in the hospital with Phupa, kind of watching him sleep, kind of guarding over him. And he's decked out in like all green, which
great.
I
didn't talk about earlier. He wears green when he's growing with Phupa. So it's the parallel, like, I'm taking on this growth, and it's the inner anima of Goya, right? Like, again, that she saw in the shadow version of Tom.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then the flashback of this is so good. So Phupa says that his dad, this is going back to like the part where the goons had stabbed Halay, and that's a pretty big thing. So he's like, what's going to happen? And Phupa says, well, my dad's not going to press charges. That he's saying any wrongdoing, or he says apologies could be sufficient. And Halay responds like, that's crazy. If any wrongdoing could end with an apology, all the police would have no job, which I don't know if that's a rough translation, because that's literally like, it's the same thing.
If apologies worked, we wouldn't need the police.
We wouldn't need the police. Like, that is, and I have a slide on that. But then the Phupa responds with saying like, that's funny, you talk like a comic I used to read when I was little.
Meta,
because this comes straight out of the Hana Yori Dango lore.
Mini lore.
Mini lore. Because the very first time it showed up, at least in the translation, it said, if apologies solved everything, we wouldn't need the police. Now would we? And then in 2001 version, in two different scenes, he says it. In the 2009 version, he says it. And then in the 2018 version, he says it. We just don't know if they say it in the 2005 version. A lot of us were trying to find it today, but nobody could find it, unfortunately. So if you know where that happens, let us know, because I think it does happen. A lot of us were like, I think it does. Like I remember him saying it, but I don't know where. But we're pretty sure it happens in every version. It did not happen at the same time, because it usually happens in the first or second episode, because it happened in the first chapter of the manga. It did not happen in F4 at the same time it typically would happen, which is where the Hana character kind of like runs into him and, gets something on him. And she's like, oh, she apologized. Why won't you just leave her alone? And that's how he responds.
And so, if apologies worked, why would we need the police? Yeah.
So that's where that comes from. And again, like, this is so interesting because the parallels, as soon as this happened, and then Phupa says, like, if a person who has done wrong, if they're really ready and willing to change, then we should forgive them. Like, I'll forgive him. And then it goes to Hale deleting all of the files. And literally my mind was like, oh my God, they're deleting, like, just like how Tom just had a death and rebirth. They're deleting Domyouji as a character. They're basically saying, like, the old Domyouji is gone, and Hale represented the old. Hale represented all of the iterations of the character before, and now that character is no longer going to harm. He's no longer going to be in the story. He's no longer going to enact like violence in the story. Essentially, the shadow character is no longer going to act violence in this story. What do you think about that?
No, I totally agree.
Permanently delete. So
yeah, like, this is delete for all eternity. No words are systems don't say that.
I know, right? It's
screwdriver
really
prompter.
Delete for all eternity. You'll lose all of your files. We can't recover them once you delete. Are you sure you want to permanently delete this drive? It's hilarious. It's so explicit. But I love the meta behind it. It's really precious.
There's something I forgot to say, Ty.
Yes.
Okay, so Hale actually apologizes to both of them and, like, says, hey, you're not being punished, or I'm not gonna take it out on you, or F4. And remember, if you actually want to post something to the internet like that, you have to make sure it's not marked only me. And this ties so directly to Apotheosis, because this transformation, although he was willing to, like, sacrifice everything to, like, make reparations to everybody, only happens in Apotheosis to the person, to the hero.
It's an inner thing. It's only happens internally. Yeah.
And they made it happen via social media, which I didn't even like they've been using social media so well, but they had the internal transformation happen only internally, only me. He posted it only to himself. He literally experienced this transformation and the apotheosis only to himself. What is this show?
Yeah, because if it would have been Retribution, if he would have actually posted it and it would actually have gotten out and circulated, then it would not necessarily be an apotheosis, because it would have been Retribution, and
it would have been another trial. Probably
it would have been another trial. It would have been he hasn't really crossed that second threshold yet. We're still in the second threshold. But because of this moment of realization, he is an apotheosis to himself, by himself.
And another slight thing, when he's having that Hale is having the moment with Phupa, you hear Shooting Star play at the end of that moment, and the end of the scene when he's looking at him.
Yes,
because Phupa is
is his shooting
Talay's
star.
shooting star.
Yeah, I actually had that note too, and I totally glazed over it. I totally forgot about that.
Sorry, there's so much to remember, and our notes are like,
Yeah,
like our Muppet hands freaking out about the episode all the time. So sorry about that.
yeah, they really are. Yeah, they very much are.
Back to Goya and Tom.
Yeah. So they're talking, chatting, and I think I
God, they're
left out.
so cute. Oh,
They're
okay.
so cute.
Can I just talk about how when they pop back onto the bed, or onto the couch, it is literally like post-sex pop back?
Yeah. Well, they had just finished like play fighting, and now they're exhausted.
But like how they pop back literally reminds me of all the sex scenes I've ever seen.
Yeah,
when
like
they're
it's
done
like
having sex.
Romantic comedy, flop back, and like, oh, that was great.
Yeah. And they're both like,
that was great.
Climaxed.
Oh, I'm dying. I'm dying. Why is every other thing in this show between them two a metaphor for like stuff that's definitely not happening, but it's definitely happening in my head? It's like, it's so it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Oh
my God.
And yeah, I'll be better for you to see. That's
what
the promise is. Because like, yes, all of this transformation happened internally, but now he's got to make it externalized for the world, for her, for the world, for the community, to heal the community. And
she's only worried about him right now, though, right? But he's worried about so much more. He is already on that point of his journey where he is, like you said, he's like worried about the community, he's worried about everything that's coming. She's only worried about him. She's like, you know what you have to do, right? Like you know, are you gonna be okay? Like, are you gonna be okay? And then she's like, and she responds to him saying he's gonna be better by saying, I'm gonna be there for you, like, no matter what you face from here on, I'm going to be there for you. Like, oh God, my heart.
And like, this is going to hurt in an episode.
Because she's not going to be there for him, and it's going to suck. But that's all I'm going to say.
I don't, she's 12. The end. That's what I'm timing it at. So.
I think so. Well, and again, like, she's not there emotionally, like in her internal journey. She just accepted her needs and wants. She's not actually, like, she's got so much further to go in her internal journey, and she's not there yet. She still has to grow up. Like, this is a very small step for her. So
but she is sort of accepting like the queen aspect, like, I'll be your partner.
Right? She is.
Like, that is important. Like, she's like, I'm gonna be there with you, I'll be your partner, I'll be there cheering you on and supporting you. But she isn't really fully like accepting what that means. And he's like, oh well, gotta go with the plan anyways. What are you talking about? Okay, let's talk about this moment.
It's like, well, my plan's ruined. Yeah, this was supposed to be about like me going away
forever into exile, and I planned to tell you that over a bottle of champagne, because there's 2 champagne glasses and all the candles, and it's very romantic. And he was like, is this how you say goodbye to a woman? I guess.
For him, definitely.
I guess so. And now we get, the shots of the, she walks up to the telescope and she gets the meteors. Again,
meteor rain.
The Perseid meteor shower still is on, or whatever. That's what that is, probably, because it's still June.
And
then and he says, like, who knew that my life would change forever on the day of a meteor rain. And
seems like it has some meaning to it.
Well, like, his life changed forever with the meteor impact of Meteor.
Yeah. I mean, this
right?
is
It's all
so layered. This is
It's
so layered.
layered.
Yeah,
right?
like they're literally calling it out. They're saying like, guys,
Mhm.
this means something. Like flashing sign right here on this line.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it seems
And
like there's some
he
meaning behind it.
died symbolically, right?
Yeah.
And life, death, and marriage are
Mhm.
all symbolically intertwined.
Yes.
And so he's like, I thought I was dead, but now I'm alive, so I might as well get married to you symbolically.
Yeah.
And so
I
he
mean,
combines their names on the necklace like a good shipper of self.
Oh yeah, but so like she says that it's a shame that the meteors are
Yeah.
like not always there, and he laughs. He laughs in response
He's
to
like,
that. He's like,
gotcha.
"Oh my god!" Like
We're
it's
made for each
so-
other.
exactly. Like, oh my god, it's
I knew
so
you were gonna
good.
say that. I got you a necklace that means I love you forever and
Yep.
always.
I captured them. You can have them forever. It will last forever because my love will last forever and we will last forever. It's every single declaration of love that has ever been romantic in like one scene.
It's amazing. And it's made
crazy.
especially for you. I custom made it.
Yep.
And in the background, we actually hear an a cappella version of Shooting Star.
Is that what it is? It's
Yes,
so nice.
it is. It's an a cappella version of Shooting Star. And if I had to guess, it's probably Bright and the other background singer that also sings for the background vocals of Shooting Star.
I love it. I love it so much. It made me very happy.
I need the full OST, not just the release songs.
Yeah.
Like, can I have the full thing with all of the instrumentals too? Because they're addictive.
Yeah, they're really good. The stuff they use in the show is so
good. Is the ship named Time Goya or Goya Time?
Well, there was some debate about that today, actually. I think people have been saying Tom Goya, but now today after the necklace thing, they're like, okay, no, it's Goya Tom. Like it's Goya Tom because that's what it says on the necklace.
He would always put Goya before himself.
Exactly. It's amazing. It's amazing. I love it. I love it. And he says, I'll love you forever. And then he pushes the hair out of her face and I ask her officially, please be my girl. I didn't even ask her. It's just be my girlfriend. Like just
he says please.
He says please. Boy. Sure. But there's no question mark on the end of that.
No.
And then
Kings don't ask questions.
Good point. Yeah, there you go. Good point. But we don't get a response from her. We don't get a kiss, which I was very upset about, but I understand why.
Sir Director Patha.
I said, I have some words with you, P.O. Patha.
We have some problems with this scene. You forgot the kiss.
Yeah.
Traditionally. Yeah. We have a problem with this, sir. We not only have to wait for her response, which will she hit him? I'm now worried for his health.
Yeah, because typically when they cut it like this, like it's gonna end.
What if she says, aren't you still dating Lita?
Okay, I could see that happening.
Okay, I hate this. I don't want this. I don't want these invasive Lita thoughts, like when the Lita scenes will show up now.
Yeah.
I'm mad. I don't want to think about it. I just want her to say yes, and she can't. I don't think. And I'm mad. I'm mad at where they're leaving us.
Yeah.
Director Patha, we have a bone to pick with you, sir. You have some explaining to do.
I do have a bone to pick with him about that. This was a perfect moment for a kiss. And because it didn't happen here, it could have happened here, but because it didn't happen here, it's definitely not going to happen until Lita's out. But that's going to happen in the next episode though, because the pants, the shirt that he was wearing, that's like the wrap up for that character. We'll talk about that in a second.
Okay.
We'll talk about that with the preview.
Okay. This is the end of the episode. They leave us off on this and she's gonna turn him. Is she gonna? I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm mad.
Don't know what's gonna happen.
You're gonna leave me like this for an entire week?
Like, look how pretty they are. Like, can you imagine how many great, amazing edits we're gonna get like using this footage? Like, it's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be so good. I'm so happy like that he looks so good and she looks so pretty and so like just very raw, you know. They both are very just raw and beautiful, and I love that. It was just a very pretty moment. All right. So the secret story of Iris, we're going back to it. I clipped it this week because I feel like there's something going on here that's actually kind of fun now. Whereas last week I didn't really enjoy it because it was way too short. But so we know like he started playing basketball, MJ started playing basketball with this group, and they are not of his like ilk. They are lesser, they're like a lower class. And some people from the school that he goes to, the Coker school, pass by and he kind of hides his face so they don't recognize him. And there's this idea of division between like the people who are on the streets and like the people who are up there at this nice school. And then these guys show up and challenge the group there on the basketball court to a game. And he says, I never thought what changes the match would bring, like this match that's about to happen. He kind of like narrates and he's like, all I could think of was we could definitely beat them, but I didn't know what changes this match would bring. So I'm interested now where this is going. It's like, okay, like there's actually going to be some consequences. So next episode, we might actually get the final like wrap up for this story, potentially, which I would be interested in seeing. They eat KFC every single one. So how many more times can they eat KFC? Every day, apparently.
Next week's preview.
All right, so he's wearing the outfit, and it's in that scene where Lita is wrapped in the sheet, right? He's wearing those colorful pants right there.
Yeah.
With the white shirt. And that's where Lita and him have like that. And that's the same. He's wearing this outfit in like a couple of shots in this preview.
Yeah. And there was
right
a picture
there too
posted to Twitter with F4 and him in those colorful pants.
I'm still trying to figure out if those are the same pants. Like I have a thing that maybe that they're not the same pants. Like
I don't know.
Might
he has
different.
Multiple pants, but we know
clearly
that when she walks in with them with Auntie U, like
right. Yeah. I definitely see that.
She is there and they're wearing the same outfits as before. And it looks like maybe Goya was beating the crap out of him.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks like something else to Lita. I don't know.
It would be nice if they had a kiss and he maybe did something and she was like, because there is a moment in like this is spoiler talk. There's a moment in like the manga and in 2018 and like all that kind of stuff where like the male lead kind of leans in a little bit too much to the kissing and she pushes him away because she thinks something else is going to happen. And typically the sister will walk in.
Yeah.
This happens typically after she gets really beat up after the like Hana plot.
That's what I talked about when you posted about towels.
What are you talking about?
When you were talking about the pink towels and the pink blanket that she's got in her bedroom.
Oh, you did. Yeah, I remember that now. Yeah.
It doesn't. Yeah, no. I was like,
who's
gonna walk in on them when they're like
Lita? Apparently.
Lita and Madame Yu or Auntie Yu, and we see this is the start of the Maid plot.
Yes, which is odd because it's like, okay, how does he get her to live there while he's still seeing Lita? It's going to be interesting, but
well, I have faith that these storytellers can do stuff.
Yeah, clearly.
Is unexpected. I love Lita's outfit, by the way. It's really interesting.
It is. It's really interesting. She also wears something interesting later too. Again, she wears like cream when she's sad or when she's making bad decisions. It's really odd.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she says at one point, like, you're making me do this, or you made me do this, or you're not even hiding. Yeah, da da da.
I think we're getting, and MJ was like, we'll go with you to go break up with Lita. like his knight. Like, I'll go with you. I'll fight her.
Yeah, we're gonna help you. Like, that's so weird.
I know. But I don't know what's gonna happen. I can't guess anymore with this show. But I mean, we are getting the Maid plot. So I did want to talk about two things. There is a shot of Tom and Maid Goya on the lawn, and there's a wider shot of that was released on Instagram, and literally his lawn is covered by animals, bronze or metal animals.
Yeah, like statues. Yeah, there's multiple ones.
You can barely see it in the gifs that we're showing, but like if you go to Instagram, you can actually go and see it. And I was like, what is this house? Right? What is this show? What is this house that he has these like this menagerie of animals, because he's like the king beast, right? Like, oh, so good. Okay, let's defend the Maid plot.
Yes, let's defend the Maid plot. So my ideas are a lot less I don't know.
I understand why people hate it.
I don't. So
she's subservient. She's already taken a place as his queen, right?
Yeah, but like, this is we're only like literally like we're only halfway through their journeys. If you want to talk about it from a heroine's journey or hero's journey perspective, like, there's still a lot of things they need to learn, and subservience is actually an incredibly important lesson on the road to becoming a hero, especially after you have achieved success. Like, especially after you've achieved success. The biggest thing that Tom and Goya have to get over after their trials and tribulations that they've had so far is their own hubris, like it's their own egos. Like, they have to, both of them are going to have to do this in some way. And the fact that it's happening for Goya here is really great, because it puts her in closer proximity to Tom, who is the person that she has just realized that she has feelings for. And proximity is key. Like, proximity is incredibly important. And how else is she going to be close to him unless she is literally like in disguise? So like, that's how I see it. I see it as in she's in disguise as a maid, but she's really the queen living next to her mate.
Yes, this is Secret Queen stuff.
Yeah, it's so cool. I love it. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's fairy tale, right? Again, fairy tale. So she's secretly the queen, and it is, if you kind of think about it, it's kind of like an episode of Undercover Boss.
Yeah, I love that. Because she's, okay, go ahead.
Because she is the queen, right? She's becoming the queen, but now she has to learn how everybody that she's going to be responsible for actually lives.
Yeah.
And she's so learning, she becomes the undercover boss under the guidance of Auntie Yu to become the mistress of the house, because that is also part of her role, is to be responsible for the household, the kingdom, and the court. And how else do you learn how to take care of one of those key things unless you actually go and do the work?
Yeah, exactly. Do you think? Yeah,
sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh no, go ahead.
Do you think we'll get the line from Auntie Yu saying, "I'm not surprised that all of this is revolved around you" in the next episode? Yeah,
absolutely.
I think so.
Yeah.
Exciting.
And then, Auntie Yu sees the potential and sees the transformation in Tom and offers her a place. But of course, Goya can't like be there without working, because it's the quid pro quo thing. It's the, she can't owe Tom this. That's always a basis for this. So this is how she feels like she can be there. This is also related to her journey and trials. Okay. So we've talked about the parallels to Eros and Psyche before, and go back and like watch our symbolic summary.
Yes.
That'll just get you quickly up to speed with this. But once Eros and Psyche are separated, she actually goes through these trials where she kind of acts as a servant. So one of them is that she has to sort out grain. And she actually gets the assistance of ants. And part of this is to prove that she is a true leader and a true goddess, because she has the ability to influence others. And she gets like secret assistance from those around her, because she has that inner power within her. That's why it's important. It's that she can inspire leadership as a queen, even in the lowly disguise as a maid.
Exactly.
That's why it's important. And I know I know it feels so I don't know,
like old. It feels like it doesn't feel very
I know
fresh,
we're gonna get a cat girl maid joke at some point.
I love that. I think it's funny as heck. I don't know.
Tom is the type of guy to make that joke because he wants her to be his beast bride, like on some level, right?
But that's
and
a part of
it feels humiliating, I guess, is how people, and they hate that. They hate empathizing with Goya in that situation and having her seem so lowly. But we have to remember she is the star bride. She is the queen. She is the tulip who is rising up out of these things. And it is important for her to go through this trial of being hidden but powerful.
She has a lot more to go through in terms of her like trials and tribulations, because she's growing at a slower rate than Tom. And and we've talked about this. This is essentially her heroine's journey. That's the probably more important, not more important. We talk about like lenses and, you know, how the story is being shown to the audience and also being shown through the eyes of the characters. And Tom is watching her grow. So I just feel like proximity is so key to this. Like, seeing her grow. I mean, it's even when she looks like that, even when she, you know, like, sorry,
go watch our Shooting Star OST deep dive. This tells exactly the point in this story. I'm not kidding.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, very true.
Like he's cheering her on because as she grows, she makes him better.
Exactly.
That's the point.
Well, and again, that's the whole cycle of challenging each other to be better. It's sexy. It's important for a relationship. It's fun. I mean, there's, you know, people talk about like power dynamics being problematic and all of that. And I think that's why people dislike the Maid stuff a lot, because it's puts her in a submissive position. But if you can kind of look away from that for a second and think about the fact that like power dynamics are always at play. Like, there is no such thing as like true equality in partnership. Like, you find true equality by acknowledging your differences and by acknowledging the power that each of you holds that is different. Everyone is better at different things. Me being smarter and me being more well-versed in certain knowledge than my husband gives me an advantage over him in certain conversations. Therefore, there is a power imbalance at play when we talk about certain things. And to acknowledge that and to understand that makes us equal. But there's still a power imbalance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be this extreme. It can be on a minuscule level. And that's why the extremity in the story makes it so interesting, is because it's playing out what we know in our lives daily, but it's playing it out on this extreme. It's playing it out on a metaphor, on a symbolic level. It's just a lot of fun. It's just a lot of fun.
Can we just talk about how feminist icon Tom is not wearing his chain anymore? He's just wearing necklaces.
Is he throughout the whole like preview? Yeah, he is. Yeah. Yeah, good on him. He's learning. Well, and again, that's that same outfit. I'm telling you, man, it's coming. I'm so
I know.
excited. I'm so
I think
excited.
they might be flower pants now that I
I
see
think
them again.
it looks kind of graffiti-y, but it could be like
Yeah.
flower graffiti. But yeah, I'll have to look closer at the HD version. Oh, so good.
Oh, it's the best.
Final
People keep
thought.
on saying like, what
Mhm.
will we do when the show is over? And you're gonna cry, and I'm probably gonna cry. It's gotten to me. I don't want this to end, but also I know I want to see the whole thing completed.
Yeah.
And it's done things that I have wanted out of media for my whole life.
Yeah, and like I'm gonna keep talking about it. I'm probably not gonna stop talking about it. This is pretty it's pretty crazy journey. I don't want to think about
I
that,
may
but
judge all future media against this standard.
why not? If they could do it in Thailand, they can do it wherever. Like it makes no sense why they can't tell stories like this.
I'm gonna see the Batman movie tonight, and I'm gonna ask
Yeah,
myself, is it better than F4 Thailand?
that'll be interesting. I can't wait to see that Twitter post.
I'll be like, it was good, but it wasn't better than F4 Thailand.
I'm so looking forward to that. I cannot wait for you.
I don't know. People really loved it so far, so
Yeah.
we'll see. And Bat Guy and Cat Girl
Mm-hmm.
seemed very attractive. So
Yeah, it should
we'll
be
see.
really good. It should be really good. I'm excited. Excited for you to tell us how it is.
All right.
All right.
Thank you for coming along on this journey with us all.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks everyone for coming along. This was so much fun. I can't think about things or else I'll cry. So yeah. This
Make
was
sure
fun.
to like, subscribe.
Yep. There you go. Make sure
share.
to like, subscribe, interact with the video, post it on social media, share it with your friends who are watching the show.
Talk about it on social media. That helps people find the show, and then they are like, whoa, the show had so much, and then they add into the conversation and it becomes so much fun.
Yeah, you can even share screenshots of our show on social media to just say, hey, like this is kind of the format they're doing, because that typically gets people interested in it. And don't forget to tell people that we also have this available in a pod format on podcatchers, so you can just listen on a podcatcher wherever you are.
At What the Fiction. And we do
At
also provide transcripts.
Yes, we do. We do provide transcripts.
They're done by AI. So
sometimes they're wrong.
Sometimes they're wrong, but it's the time that I have to commit to it.
Yes. So,
but
anyways,
we love doing this. We love having you along, and your comments make our weeks pass by even faster. So
100%.
Thank you for your engagement in this, and we look forward to speaking to you about the OST In the Wind midweek, and of course episode 12 next week.
Yay. Yes, see you guys midweek and also next week, and thanks again. Cheers.